Next out, we will have supervisors. We're doing both positions on tonight, so we'll ask them all the same questions, and then we'll draw in the interview process. Yes, 5 minutes, please. Well, I could talk with you. That's true. It'll be on. Yeah, so it should be there. And you'll be on the hot seat, so.
Depends on Lauren.
Okay, let's
Any questions for Gary?
I guess ask him to share.
There he is.
Hi, there. Thank you.
Yes, because
Still hasn't left me.
It will never leave you.
Well, hello there, Ted. How you say?
How are you?
Good, good. How's your campaign? A lot of work, huh?
Yeah. I'm good. How are you? Yeah, you guys have been gone. How are you? Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah, no, I think it's just so like wishy-washy. But then a couple days we were like, wow, it was like it was gonna rain. Hey, I know. Yeah, we're doing Yeah, my dog.
Number you got, go ahead.
Draw my number. first on the first question, 2 will go first on the second question, and so on.
Even though just what you told me.
Let's get it here. And ask the back of the picture. You guys know what you have.
I didn't. And you do, you.
I know we're about we're almost over. Ready?
You'll get better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you go to Facebook Live right now, you can see. Arthur, you want to go follow your account?
Yeah. Hey. You don't look for smoke? Hey, how are you? In fact, you're the one that told me you met him. Yeah. She's the 2-1.
Oh, yeah.
So I gotta be, I'm still getting my.
Goodness.
All right, good morning. Thank you guys all for coming out today. Just wanted to give you kind of a layout of how we're going to run the debate this morning. We're going to start out with just the recorder. The recorder, if you guys picked up these pamphlets, they're over here on the side. Also cold water, so help yourself to some cold water. Recorder, we have running Aaron Miller as a Republican and Sarah Stacy Camacho as a Democrat. Sarah was unable to be here this morning, so it will just be answering questions for Aaron. After the recorder, we'll go ahead and have the supervisors from both District 1 and District 3 come out, and they'll answer all of the same questions. And then finally, we'll have a quick break, and the sheriff candidates will come out, and we'll ask the questions of the sheriff candidates. Just let you know how we are running this. We sent out a Survey Monkey so that the public could enter questions that they had. So all these questions are coming from our constituents all around Greenlee County. And then we set some rules that we already spoke to all of the candidates. They're going to have an opening statement. They'll get 2 minutes to answer each question. And if they need to add to something at the end of that series of answers, or they need to rebuke something, they can raise their hand and they will get an additional 30 seconds. So that's how we're running it this morning, just so we try to get out as much information as possible. We have this going out live on YouTube and Facebook, so if you want to share that with friends and families, please go ahead and do so. We put it out on the Duncan Conversations, the Morenci Uncensored, the York Sheldon Community one, I think the Verdon one as well, and Duncan Valley Electric Co-op. So you can reach out on any of those ones and share that. So we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, Erin, do you want to go ahead and do your opening?
Good morning, and thank you for everyone coming out. I am Erin Miller. I'm running for Greenlee County Recorder. I have been in the Recorder's office since 2022. With all the controversy that's around elections and everything going on, I don't know why I'm running for this position. It's because I care. I really look forward to representing the best what Greenlee has to offer.
Okay, the first question brought out was, why are you running for this position?
I am committed to maintaining Greenlee standards for recording documents. I'm here to help prevent fraudulent liens and fraudulent deeds. I want to make sure your guys' property is protected. I also want to keep the integrity with elections. I know it's hard to trust it right now, so we need people that know what's going on. We need people that are constantly watching the laws change, or a whole MBD accident that happened that you're like, here you go, you didn't have enough stress, let's add this on. So that's why I'm running.
And not everybody understands the position of recorder, so can you please explain what the job of recorder is responsible for?
I sure can. So the recorder's job, we actually record your important documents, such as deeds, liens, judgments. We also work with the assessors to make sure that there's not someone trying to record a bad deed or fraudulent liens, which people have tried to do. We have to know what we're looking for in a document to make sure it's correct. And then for the election side, we do early elections. So if you got your ballot, I really hope you got your ballot because they went out October 9th. If you have it, you can request it by October 25th, or you can also come into our office to early vote. So we handle voter registration and we handle early voting.
Awesome, okay. Can you please tell us about your civic service?
My civic services, I've helped run the presidential election and also the primary. And right now I am running the general, and we have a great staff all involved.
What experience and or professional qualifications do you have that meet or exceed the duty of recorder?
I have been in the recorder's office since 2022. I am election certified. I also is signature verification certified. That is presented to us by an FBI expert that handles and looks at signatures. So that way we can make sure you guys feel safe with mailing in your ballot or bringing us your ballot. So how we do that is we mail out your ballot, we get it back, we make sure it's your signature, we make sure it's the ballot code that we assigned matches. That way there's no one duplicating a vote. That way you as a Greenlee County can feel safe.
Can you describe in detail why you are the most qualified candidate for this position?
I feel I'm the most qualified because I am election certified trained. I have the experience. I've been in the office for 2 years. I've seen everything that is coming at us, and I will even be honest, there's things that surprise me still. But I just want to see the American process brought to Greenlee County the best that it can be.
How are we as a county and a state protecting our voting rights for only American citizens to vote?
Well, that's a catch-22 right now, and if many of you have been following the news, there is a big glitch with the MVD. I hate to admit that, but there is. So if you got a license, your original license was issued October 1996. Before then, DMV was just reissuing a license. So most people that they are saying are illegal right now, they're actually original Arizonians that just never had to go back in and prove the documentation. I can tell you right now, we check in our office, and even to this day, we are calling and making sure people prove citizenship.
If elected, what is your main priority?
I want to continue educating people what the recorder's office does, because I feel it's an underrated job. I feel that people, if they actually understood the process, they could feel more comfortable with voting. I want people to understand that their deeds and their property are important. I just want to keep educating.
Thank you, Erin. That's all the questions that we received online, but you're welcome to do a closing statement.
I want to thank everyone for coming out again. It was a lot of pressure. I do really good one-on-one group settings. I'm sorry if I made this long and uncomfortable. Really, I just want everyone to learn what their opponents are about or what the candidates are about. You need to pick the right people to keep Greenlee County growing. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Erin.
Thank you.
I would like to go ahead and invite all of the supervisor candidates to the stage.
That's what I said. I'm just gonna stand up here. So I did my intro first, and then I introduced the question. Okay. Don't worry, the first questions are always.
Do you want us to sit in order or just sit?
Yeah, please in order. That would just make it easier. I'll sit over. You want to move that way?
I'm sure.
Okay, we're going to introduce, we have with us from District 1 candidates David Gomez, who is the incumbent, and Nicole Horn running as an independent. For District 3, we have Kara Wagley running as a Republican, J.R. Murdoch running as an independent, and William Warren running as an independent. So I'm going to let them do their opening statements. They drew numbers to answer the first question, so they're going to go in that particular order. Good morning, everybody. My name is Nicole Horn. I am 32 years old. I've lived in Greenlee County my entire life, and I'm very passionate about the place where I live. I have had multiple generations of family who have lived here. Both my maternal and paternal grandparents resided here. And the reason I'm here is because I'm super passionate about making this community as beautiful as we know it can be. I am raising children here in the community, and I have a lot of friends and generations of friends that need our help, and that's why I want to stand up here today and make some changes and come together as a community. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is David Gomez. I've been the supervisor for this county for the last 16 years, and I'm running for office to continue serving everyone. And I ran on a platform on economic development and housing because I worked for Southwest Gas for 33 years. And I was actually tired of hearing people come through our office that were either leaving their job at the mine or wherever, and saying that they really wanted to stay here, but there was no rooftops for for them to buy a home and remain in this beautiful county of ours. So that's the reason that I'm running for office and continuing on what I've been working on for all these years. And we have actually had quite a few homes built in the last 10 years, and we hope to get some more built here soon. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Will Warren. I'm 58 years old. I've been in Greenlee County for 18 years. I've loved it here. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for being here this morning, taking the time out of your day to meet your candidates. I feel that the election process is very important for all of us, and we all need to take an active role in it, so thank you all for being here. Again, I'm 58 years old. I've worked at Freeport-McMoRan for the last 18 years. I'm originally from Tempe, Arizona. I have my degree from Arizona State Universities, and I have my master's degree from the University of Phoenix. I feel that it's my time. I know that it's my time now to serve. I've had the opportunity to raise a family here in Greenlee County. I have 4 children, all graduated from Duncan High School. I want to put back into the community what the community and the county has given to me. Some of the things that I'd like to work on is having better communication between the county, intergovernmental agencies, and the citizens here in Greenlee County. I'd like to make sure that everybody's aware of what's going on and make sure that we're working as hard as we can as a county entity to serve the constituents of the county. As I look forward into the future, I'm excited. I think Greenlee County is a great place to live, great place to raise your family. I think there's many improvements which we can make as we capitalize on the good things which we have already here. We can make things better. In this political climate right now, both locally and nationally, I think it's a time for all of us to unite together, to look at our priorities and foster those priorities together so that we can protect our way of life here in Greenlee County. Thank you very much for your time.
Good morning. Thank you guys for being here. As Will said, I think it's very important for people to become involved and informed about the candidates that they have the opportunity to vote for in each election. I'm almost 55 years old. I'm running for Greenlee County Supervisor District 3. I would love to represent the county that I was born and raised in. I have a long family history. In fact, I was just talking to Terry Sloan about my 101-year-old uncle who lives here and loves this place. I raised my kids here. I'm a graduate of Duncan High School. I have spent most of my adult life working in the field of education. I have a bachelor's degree in special education, master's degree, a couple of different master's degrees in education as well. And I would just like to use my knowledge of my county, my home county, my hometown, and bring the opportunities that I know are here for our constituents. I think that there's lots of things that we could do to improve the revenue system, the use of our facilities, things like that. I just think it's important for us as supervisors to bring those opportunities to our constituents. I think that because of my history in education, I tend to want to focus a lot on the kids of our community, but that's our future. So I think that it's important that we use the things that we can utilize in our community to help our youth. I just would love the opportunity to represent this district as a county supervisor. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. I'm J.R. Murdoch, and I'm running for District 3 Supervisor. First, I want to thank all of you for being here. I know it's Saturday, and there's a lot of other things you could be doing, and it shows your commitment to come out and meet the candidates. I've lived in Greenlee County for 31 years. My wife, Dusty, and I raised our children here. Both our boys are proud Wildcats. This community is truly our home. Since moving here, we have been blessed by the love and support of this community, whether it was neighbors lending a hand during a tough time or school events where we cheer our boys on. These experiences have deepened our connection to Duncan and Greenlee County. It's this spirit of the community that inspires me to give back and be the supervisor of District 3. For the past 31 years, I worked for USDA Wildlife Services as a biological technician, where many of you knew me as the guy who handled the predator issues for the public. My career has given me valuable insight into how government functions at the federal, state, and local levels. And my background in natural resources aligns well with the issues that face District 3. As your full-time supervisor, I will be fully committed and available with an open door policy. I believe it's essential for people's voices to be heard. And I welcome any ideas or solutions you may have. I have no ties that limit my commitment to this role, and I am eager to work together for the community's future. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to start with the first question. The first question says, describe in detail why you are the most qualified person for this position.
Okay, as far as being qualified for this position, I know when I talk to a lot of people, they point out my age. And yes, I am 32 years old, but I have a really high goal of continuing to give back to my community and involving the youth in order to help the elderly people here. I do have a personal, heartfelt reason why I do want to help the elderly here. I struggled with helping my grandparents and not being able to have the resources here. And also the people, the town that I've spoke with and just sharing their concerns, and it's really near and dear to my heart. And I would like to bring more resources to the community and have involve the youth. Like we talked a lot about the youth, and they are the future of what we have in this community. And there isn't a reason why we can't give them resources to also give back to the elderly who have helped us. Thank you.
So the question is to describe in detail why you are the most qualified person for this position.
Well, I feel that I'm the most qualified for this position because I have 40 years of experience. I'm retired Southwest Gas Corporation of 33 years. In the last 24 years of my career with them, I was a district manager here locally. And now I've been here with the supervisors for as a supervisor of District 1 for 16 years, which came in hand with all the experience that I had. Because it involves budget, it involves taking care of every department that sits below me, and I work with everyone. I'm very serious about what I do, and I never give up. You know, whether it's differences with my colleagues, I have a very good supervisor colleagues that we have our own differences, and we also have our own ideas, and we work together civilly, which is how politics should operate. And I feel that I have a lot to offer, and I'm not done doing what I was planning to do with all these years that I've been working at. Thank you.
I know that I'm qualified for the District 3 supervisor job. Back in 1990, I graduated from Arizona State University and went directly into the business world. I spent a few years as a procurement manager over in San Francisco, California with Peerless Lighting. From there, I came back to Arizona so my wife could finish her education in secondary education. At that time, I went into small business, spent 17 years in small business and got to learn the end of running your business. I know there's a lot of businesses being run here in Greenlee County. I have the opportunity and the experience to assist with those challenges that business owners are facing today. Back in 2007, I had the opportunity to start with Freeport-McMoRan here in Morenci. At Freeport-McMoRan, I've had the opportunity to be a procurement officer also there in purchasing and materials management. I've had the opportunity to be a contract writer, where I had the opportunity to write contracts for both large and small organizations that interface with Freeport-McMoRan. And currently at this time, I'm the senior supervisor over the mobile crane group and the haulage group at Morenci. All these experiences fall hand in hand with what supervisors do in Greenlee County. Supervisors are in charge of looking at the long range forecast for the county, what's coming up in the near future. Many times is to be managed by those managers over those areas, but the county supervisors, the three supervisors, work together to plan for both the short term and the long term. My goal is to secure a future here for Greenlee County in the short term and to assure a future for generations to come, to make Greenlee County a place where we can all live. Thank you very much.
The question is to describe the most qualified person for this position.
I think first and foremost, what qualifies me for this position is the fact that I've lived here my whole life. I have seen our county in good times and I've seen our county in bad times. And I think that I have an understanding of the things that have worked for our county, the traditions of our county, but I also think that I bring new insight and ideas that can further our county's future into, more opportunities. So I think I have worked in education as a teacher for the last 13 years, and I think that anybody who works in education has to know how to lead. Every single day when you go into a classroom, you have to know how to lead. And education is very difficult because you have a plethora of people that you have to collaborate with to make your classroom and your school successful. And I think that I've proven that I am very good at that, which is something that needs to happen when you're a supervisor. You're a board of three, and not everybody's going to agree. And so I think that it's important, as David said, to be able to stand up for your ideas and ideals, but it's also important to be able to manage that relationship with your other supervisors. I think I do that very well. As I said, I have multiple degrees in education, one of which is in educational leadership, and I think that helped prepare me for this opportunity. And part of, like I say, the reason that I think that I'm very qualified for this is because I love my town, I love my county, and I really want to do things that are going to better our county. I don't think that the supervisors that are in the position now have done a horrible job. I think that they love their county and their districts too. But I think it's just time for some new ideas. I think it's time for some new energy to be infused into the board, and I think I'm the person that can do that. Thanks.
So the question is to describe in detail why you are the most qualified person for this position.
I believe I'm the most qualified person for the District 3 supervisor because of my experience in dealing with the government, my experience in natural resources, and in the issues facing the fairgrounds. I have been the junior livestock president. I have rodeoed. I understand the issues that face the kids at the junior livestock level, and I understand the issues that face the arena. I have coached Little League in Duncan, and I understand the issues that face the Little League. So for those reasons, I feel like I'm the most qualified. Thank you.
David will answer this question first. Yes. So we'll go down the road now. You'll be the first one to answer the second question.
Okay.
So the second question is, describe in detail what you believe to be the job and responsibilities of the Greenlee County Supervisor.
Well, first of all, and most of all, with a monetary authority, having to do with any elected official's office. We have the final word on what expenditures that we make in regards to that department or that office. And that is one of the main duties of a supervisor. Unfortunately, some folks don't agree with that, but that's exactly how it is. I mean, that's government when it comes to politics and in the arena that we're in. And I'll just cut it short, and that's my answer. Thank you.
My vision and what the job of the supervisor is to be the final word for the county. I think all of us know that the county supervisors, those three individuals, are the board of supervisors for the county. So they are the final word for both the money, for policy, and for long-range planning and forecasting that's coming up. It's a very important job. I agree with what David Gomez said just now, that job is a very big responsibility. I think many times decisions are going to have to be made, which are for the best of the county, but it's not going to be the best answer for everyone in the county for what they would like to see done. So the county supervisor, that individual and individuals need to make those decisions collectively. That's what they feel is the best decisions for the county. They have to look at many things, both the forecast, both the budget, and what, most importantly, what the people want, gather all that information and make their best informed decision. That's what the job for the county is, and they are the final word for the county. Thank you.
As both of the gentlemen, the supervisors are fiscally responsible for the county. I think first and foremost, what we do is we work for our constituents. Our job is to take what those constituents want and need and figure out a way for that to best be served for our. Not everybody's going to be happy. Every decision you make, there's someone that's not going to be happy about it. But ultimately, working together as the three supervisors, you come to the conclusion that what is best for our county may not always please everyone, as Will said. But in the end, they are the fiscally responsible group for the county and using the money to better the county in whatever that looks like. So I think that's basically the buck stops with the county supervisors.
I agree with what Mr. Gomez said, but also there's time spent at the legislature to procure that money for the budget, keep it coming in. There's also time spent testifying in front of committees and many numerous things at the state level that the supervisors do and need to continue to do to keep that funding coming into Greenlee County. Thank you.
Not as easy going last because they have to repeat everything that everybody said. But along with what all the rest of the candidates have said here and talking about how the community will give us ideas about how we need to help them and then in the end we are the end decision. But I think a huge part of being a part of the Board of Supervisors is being transparent with the community. I know for a long time, I talked to a lot of people and they said, well, we don't really understand why we're doing this or why the budgets are going towards this. And like Kara mentioned, not everybody's going to be happy with the decisions that the board makes, but in its entirety, they're here to do what's best for the community and help everyone that has put their time and effort before us. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Ward, you'll go first on the next question. The question is,
What supervisory experience over people and resources do you have in your professional career?
Thank you very much, Marcy. First of all, starting out in small business, I had the opportunity to run a landscaping organization which I had formed on my own. It had 18 individuals with it in Phoenix. Secondly, I moved after that here to Freeport McMoran, where I had the opportunity to work in the global sourcing group, where I had worked with procurement, with forecasting, and with contracts creation, where I had the opportunity to learn and to see and to understand within the Greenlee County area what challenges are being faced with contractors and contracting here. There's challenges of getting those contractors here at a fair price. We want to work with the areas that they're in, Tucson, Phoenix, the larger metro areas, negotiate and to work through those problems to make it better here. Thirdly, currently where I'm at with Freeport, I'm over the mobile crane and the surface haulage group. I have the opportunity to supervise 40 individuals. I also have the opportunity to interface with senior management and management at the corporate level. I've learned how to work through the different levels of organizations to make a competent decision for all and to work collectively for the best decision for all. So through these experiences, through these times, I've also seen how we have to make budgets work, how we have to make our money work. The money is not limitless. As we go on into the future, money is getting more and more difficult to find and to utilize. So we have to be very careful how we utilize these funds, that we get the biggest and best decisions made for our county. I don't think it's a mystery to all of us to know that Greenlee County is not one of the largest counties in Arizona either. My goal is to make sure that I and the fellow supervisors are providing that equal voice down in Phoenix, down in Tucson, so that we can receive our fair share. Thank you very much.
The question is, what supervisory experience over people and resources do you have in your professional career?
Before I worked in education, I worked in-home care for disabled individuals, and I helped create and start the program for that company in Morenci, where I was supervising probably 30 people. I was doing payroll, everything that has to do with that kind of business. I also, in education, have spent a lot of time collaborating with fellow teachers, but also supervising a number of staff through my job in education. I think being a parent, that's a supervisory job, and I think that I have learned personally, just budgeting, I've written grants, numerous grants through my job in education. And you have to work with the budget. You have to work with being responsible for the money that's given to you through that grant. And so I've worked with that numerous times. In fact, working on grants right now, in the process of working on a grant right now. So I think that my supervisory experience is maybe a little limited in comparison to some of the other candidates, but I think that I bring leadership with empathy and respect to the job. I would bring leadership with empathy and respect to the job. Thank you.
So the question is, what supervisory experience over people and resources do you have in your professional career?
Working for USDA Wildlife Services, I worked alone for 31 years. Prior to that, I worked for a drilling company where I ran a crew or a shift of guys that was on my crew, and the other two shifts that were on the drill rig, and there were 9 guys total. So being here for 31 years, being alone, I didn't get much supervisory experience, but before that I had a little. Thank you.
With my my role at Freeport, I've worked there for 11 years. I've held multiple positions there. I started off as just a clerk and worked my way into the planning department, which interfaced with a lot of budgetary estimates, contracts, dealing with the global supply chain. And then in my current role that I've been in for the last couple years, I'm a reliability engineer, and we interface with all different levels of supervision, and we are also called on to be supervised over a bunch of different groups outside in the mine, whether it be contractors or our own FMI personnel. One thing that I have learned is that you're going to make people upset when you're trying to perform these roles. But as long as you are doing the right thing, even when others aren't looking, your integrity will stand very tall in a workforce and in the supervisor role. Thank you.
I'm kind of confused here on who's next and who's not next. Musical chairs. Go ahead. Give me the question again. Supervision.
Absolutely. The question is, what supervisory experience over people and resources do you have in your professional career?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I was had a career with Southwest Gas for 33 years. Eight years of that career was I went up the ladder as a service tech that I was hired on as, and became a senior service tech up to that point, and then became the district manager of Southwest Gas there locally for 33 years. For 24 years. And then now with the supervisors, I learned my supervision from Southwest Gas, coming from a small district here in Clifton, Morenci, Loma Linda, and Bertie Lee. And it fell right in place with being a small county. We don't have all the resources that all the larger counties have, so we have to really work hard to get our fundings and get things done here. But we all work hand in hand for the better of the good of this county, and I would like to continue doing that in the years to come. Thank you.
Okay, the next question is, as supervisor, you will be expected to forecast, budget, and procure for expense and capital projects. What experience do you have in these areas?
Well, as I said, my experience comes with education and grant writing and things like that. I think that, honestly, it would be a learning curve for me. But I think that being on a board of supervisors with three, you're there to back each other up and work together. And so what I don't know, I know being a lifelong learner, I will pick up quickly. So my experience, like I said before, I have a lot of experience grant writing and talking about budgeting as far as education is concerned. But I do think that it would be a learning curve for me if I was elected, and I would hope that that wouldn't make you hesitate to cast your vote for me.
The question is, as a supervisor, you will be expected to forecast, budget, and procure for expense and capital projects. What experience do you have in these areas?
Working for the government and being contracted by Greenlee County, my budget was handed to me and I had to manage it myself. So on a year basis, I had to make sure that money lasted throughout the year and keep my costs down and keep the cost down to the county. Thank you.
Nicole?
Can you repeat it, please?
The question is, as the supervisor, you will be expected to forecast, budget, and procure for expense and capital projects. What experience do you have in these areas?
So my experience with capital projects and forecasting all come from a mining industry. In my planning role, I was a long-range planner as well as a short-range planner, and I was interfaced with forecasting capital projects such as rebuilding shovels and making sure that we were on budget. None of the components that come with these big pieces of equipment are cheap, and so we have to make sure that we're looking at the right time frame and making sure that our vendors can meet our deadline, because when we're interfacing with GSC, they also have a job to do. They are there to help us with the budget, and they can't always get exactly what we need when we need it, but showing patience with them is a great quality when dealing with budgets, and also just investigating before just kind of jumping right into things, because you might get, a capital project with a certain amount of budget, and there could be ways where you could save money, so you just need to be able to examine and understand what you're looking at. Thank you.
David? The question is, Supervisor, you will be expected to forecast, budget, and procure for expense and capital projects. What experience do you have in these areas?
Well, as I mentioned before, the experience I have came from Southwest Gas originally, and we followed the procurement process. I created my own budget for the year on main replacements, service replacements, new service, and even took natural gas into Loma Linda Verde Lee, because natural gas was only in Clifton and Morenci. And so I brought that with me with the county, and same thing. We go through the monetary authority through the county on the budgets and on capital projects. This is a perfect example of what's going on here with one of our capital projects that we work on. And you know what? And I don't care if it's in Morenci, Clifton, or Duncan, as long as it happens in Greenlee County. And that's what I work for the better good of this county. Thank you.
Some examples of capital projects that I've had the opportunity to work on. Number one would be the Copper Verde project in Morenci. I was the buyer and also the procurement manager over that project, which was over 300 homes down there. Assisted with the curb and gutter procurement, assisted with securing the contractors, also insured and assisted and purchased the modular homes that went into that project. That was a 2.5-year project that I had the opportunity to work with. Learned very much there. Also, I was able to be the buyer for the rec center in Morenci, and was able to see that project through to completion, which was very helpful for me to gain that experience and that exposure to work with that capital project. Currently, a couple of the capital projects that I'm working on right now as we speak is we're looking to procure a 600-ton crane in Morenci, and we're also looking to look into the future and in the next 5 to 7 years purchase a 900-ton mobile crane. We're working through the people that can assist us with providing those services and goods to us. It'll be a 2-year study, and we're looking forward to purchasing what's best for us as we move up into larger equipment in Morenci. So during these times, I've had the opportunity to articulate, to work with outside organizations and to work within organizations, to forecast those funds 5, 10, and 15 years ahead, to make sure that we're doing the right thing at the right time and utilizing the right products for the right thing to do the best that we can. So I feel that these will help me and assist me as we work forward in the county as county supervisors to work with our current capital projects, which, as David mentioned, one of the biggest ones we have right here is the fairgrounds. That's a big project. We want to make sure we get it right and get it correct the first time, because we know these funds don't come around every day. Thank you very much.
No, so the next question is going to Mr. Murdoch.
Do I start?
Go
get to figure it out.
Excuses, it's the sun.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The question is, what boards or organizations are you currently a participating member of?
I'm currently a participating member of the Greenlee County Fair and Racing Association. That's the board that oversees the fairgrounds. Now, that board has been fairly inactive the last 4 years, 5 years. And I blame that on the fact that it's due to COVID and a number of the members have passed away. And the Board of Supervisors have not manned that board like it should be. There should be all members present at all times. So thank you.
Nicole? The question is, what boards or organizations are you a current participating member of?
One of the organizations that I do actively participate in is the Women in Mining Group. It's an organization that we found to network with other women throughout the mining industry. It used to not be a norm for women to be out there, and it's been enlightening to hear other people's stories and look at other women who have been put into leadership roles throughout the mining industry, but also in other industries as well. And then I'm also a member of the United Way donation groups, and I have currently helped them with different grants for the county as well. Thank you.
The question is, what boards or organizations are you currently a participating member of?
I'm currently the chairman of the board of the SEGO, Southeastern Arizona government organization that serves Santa Cruz, Cochise, Greenlee, and Graham. I've been with them since I came into this position as supervisor for 16 years. I'm also on the board of I'm the pastoral council chairman of the board at the Catholic church that I belong to in Sacred Heart. I assist the father there with the procurement process on any capital projects or anything that needs to be done with the church. What else am I on? I'm going to have to end it there. I'm sorry. I'm also on the board on the Community Development Economic Workforce nationally through National Association of Counties.
Currently, the boards which I'm involved with, I'm on the Arizona Rural Housing Association board for Greenlee County. That works with the lower income and the government subsidized type housing. I've learned a lot there. They're looking at some projects here in Greenlee County, which is going to be exciting going into the future. One volunteer organization I'm involved with too is the Duncan Firefighter Organization. I've had the opportunity to be there for going on 2 years now. I've grown to love and to enjoy that job. Work there and take calls. It's a fully volunteer organization, and I've really grown from that, helping the citizens of Greenlee County. Also, another one that's very near and dear to my heart that I'm currently on is the Duncan Preservation Society board. It's a great organization. People pour their hearts into that. It's fully volunteer. We work and we meet each month, work together for the beautification of the Duncan area and the Greenlee County area together. We also participate in scholarships. I really do enjoy spending my time and working with those individuals. They're very great people. Also, I consider myself privileged to be able to work with the youth of the community. I'm able to work refereeing both basketball, football, and various activities for the young people in the area. I do grow from them. I feel that we have a very strong youth movement in this county. They're going to be great leaders for the future, and it's our job to help them and to support them through this time. Thank you very much.
So I don't currently serve on any boards. In the past, I served as the president for the Greenlee County Library group, and I teach every day, and I coach for the emergency schools. And I hope that in January, I'll be on the Board of Supervisors. Sorry.
Okay, I think we're starting with Mr. Gomez. The next question is,
I think it's the
I'm sorry, you're right.
It's the
Now I
sun.
got it.
It's the sun.
I know.
I listen very well.
Okay, the next question is, according to the legislature website, the salary of a Greenlee County supervisor is going up to over $83,000 in January of 2025. If elected as county supervisor, would this job be your sole occupation, and what amount of time and resources will you be allocating to this position?
Okay, I currently do work for Freeport McMoran, and I did plan on having my dual employment, but I do have a very flexible role and have been talking to people about how they feel. And yes, there are some people who have some pros and some cons, but I do plan on spending as much time as I need to learn the role and get what I need for the resources, and kind of learning as I go, because, and David can probably tell you, it's probably a pretty demanding role, but I'm really new to it, so I look forward to learning. Thank you.
The question is, according to the legislature website, the salary of the Greenlee County supervisor is going up to over $83,000 in January of 2025. If elected as county supervisor, would this job be your sole occupation, and what amount of time and resources will you be allocating to this position?
Well, I can say that being in this position for 16 years, we've had the same salary since I started in '09. And I've been a full-time supervisor. I had retired from Southwest Gas in '08 and have been in this capacity since then. And I will continue as a full-time supervisor, continuing to do what I have done in the past. Thank you.
I too currently work full-time for Freeport McMoran. When elected, I plan on spending the time that's necessary, that it takes to do the supervisor job also. I feel I have the experience necessary. I think the more important question is to vote for the experienced person that is most experienced for the job. If you look in the requirements for the supervisor job, there is no specific hours specifically taken. So perhaps it may be more than 40 hours to do the job. It may be less than 40 hours. I think that depends on the projects coming up. I have cleared through my supervision at work to take that time necessary, to spend the time necessary to perform the job as a supervisor for Greenlee County when elected. I feel I'm prepared, experienced, and can do that job and do that job fully for the constituents and citizens of Greenlee County, and to be an effective, responsive supervisor. Thank you.
So right now, I work full-time in Morenci Schools as a teacher, and I would plan on staying with that. I am a single person. I don't have any kids at home. So I have the flexibility and the time to put into both my job and supervisor. If I was elected and I found that I couldn't do both, yeah, I would probably leave my job as a teacher to dedicate myself full-time to the office of supervisor.
I retired from my position with Wildlife Services after 31 years to run for this position. I understand the time constraints watching our current supervisor and know how much time he spends. And I will spend 100% of my time or whatever it takes to get the job done. I don't have outside employment and I won't have. Thank you.
Okay, now I think that David is the next question. The question is, if elected, what is the first thing you would do or change in this position and why?
You know, I don't think there's anything that I would probably change because everything in a small county like ours is important. I don't think that I can't even think on the top of my head of anything that I would change. I would just continue lobbying for the funding that we, as everyone has mentioned, that you have to go down to the legislature and lobby for the funding that we receive and make sure that they don't, you know, it's been many times that the state of Arizona finalizes their budget with monies that we deserve that should come to us, and they've used our money to finalize their budgets on an annual basis. And there isn't anything that I would change. I would just continue doing what we're doing because as you can see, we've been doing a good job in this county and prospering the good of the entire county from the north to the south. And that's my goal, is to continue as a whole. But I would still continue working hard to have new homes built here because of the workforce that our engine driver up on top of the hill there has 800, 1,000 displaced miners that are commuting into this area. That is my goal. Thank you.
I have a two-pronged approach when I'm elected. First of all, I want to be able to open up communication lines. Many things I feel that are happening on me being one of the citizens here in the county is I would like to know more about what's going on with the county. So one of my goals would be to open up the communication more with the county government, perhaps move some meetings around so that they're more able to be attended by everyone as a whole. So that would be one of my first goals, is to work with county officials to open up and have more transparency for the citizens of Greenlee County. My second approach would be where we're sitting right now. Currently, we have approximately $3 million. We are going to, as a county and as citizens of this county, work together to make this fairgrounds the best we can make them. We have a one-time shot here. I want to open up the communication there. I want to work with plans again, maybe look at revamping plans, improving on the plans we have, having town halls, going to the groups which are involved, all the groups which will be involved, working here at the fairgrounds, and come to the best collective decision we can to have the best facilities we can with the budget we've been given. I feel that's a possible solution, and it is possible to do, and it's possible to do with the budget we have, but the key is going to be bringing us all together and collaborating together and making this the best facility, and have it be a showpiece for other counties to look to when they're planning for their facilities. Thank you very much.
So I'm very much on board with Will in the fact that I think there has been a severely lacking communication between the public and the board. And I think that one of the reasons is that people don't feel like the meetings are at a time when they can attend. A lot of people are working during the midday. And so being able to open up the possibility of moving those meetings to a time when the community can be more involved would, I think, make a lot of people happy. And then I myself would love to have maybe quarterly town hall meetings where the people who aren't able, elderly and people like that, who aren't able to commute into Clifton for those meetings, to come and vent their needs, their opinions, their questions, so that they feel like they're being heard. And I think that kind of has been what has been lacking. People just go, well, why did they do the fairgrounds that way? Because nobody told them they didn't want it that way. So I think that those lines of communication are very important. I think in the times of social media and computerized technology, there's a plethora of ways that we can get more people involved in the process of telling us what it is that the county needs and wants. So I think that the lines of communication have to be more transparent and more accessible to the constituents of the county.
One of the first things I would do is the federal government is going after numerous of our ranchers. I would prepare myself to defend them and do what it takes to save their livelihood. The second thing I would do is get this fairgrounds issue cleaned up. And by doing that, I would bring in members from each organization, the Little League, the rodeo arena, the junior livestock committee, bring everyone together, worked out, and make it the place we all want it to be. Thank you.
The question is, if elected, what is the first thing you would do or change in this position and why?
So one of my primary goals about this community is, like everyone has mentioned, open lines of communications, listening to the people who live in our county, who have been here for years on end. They need our help. They need our voices. We need to be able to help them with any resources that they may need. And we might have some restrictions, but opening up your mind and just listening to them and making them feel heard is a big part of this community. And I believe as a supervisor and as we build and reunify the county, we can use some of the youth to help some of the elderly people here. Maybe even if that's, going to their door just to, get a message for them, or maybe give them a ride to these meetings if they can't make it. But just having those resources out there for the community would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay, the next question states that the sheriff's office is struggling to retain employees due to a lack of available company housing and cost of external housing. How do you plan to support the sheriff's office and their efforts to keep employees?
Thank you, Marcy. First of all, I'd like to work closely with the sheriff's office and have that line of communication open. Also, to work with the county to see if there's any solutions we can come to with housing for the officers. One thing that I've seen explored before too, perhaps as a plan, would be for officers that do not live within the area or do not live in company housing, perhaps to explore some type of stipend or some type of pay model that could assist them. If they do not have the housing, that could assist them with their rent or their house payment, which would help them to have the opportunity to stay here in our area a little bit longer. I think those do provide an incentive. It provides the officers to know that we do care as citizens, that we do need that protection. So I think there's many options that we can look at. I would like perhaps to even look at working in conjunction with the sheriff's office also, to look at more of a type of a consulting firm, not to come in very heavy, but to assist us perhaps on online meetings, to assist us with other solutions that may have worked in other small counties, perhaps like in La Paz, Santa Cruz, the smaller counties which are facing the same problem at the same time. I'm sure we're not the only ones facing this problem. So to work collectively with other counties, other groups, and to work collectively with the Sheriff's Department to come to us, and they perform a very vital function to us, and they protect us overall. Big subject, and we need to address it. Thank you.
So I think housing is a difficult subject in this area across the board. I think it's important to work closely with the sheriff's office and figure out numbers. I know that a lot of times people in the county, businesses in the county, schools in the county, we go to FMI a lot for assistance. And I think that that's okay in most circumstances, but I think that there's so many opportunities for things like grants that can be written to purchase land and put housing on. FMI is one of those places that you can write grants to. I think that sheriff's officers in this county do a great service to FMI. So I think that really reaching out to them and working in conjunction with the county, the sheriff's office, and FMI, and looking at grant writing opportunities to try and get some housing in here for those sheriff's officers. And not just sheriff officers, but in Duncan, I know there's a difficult time getting teachers. So maybe having those, you can look into grant writing for things like the Good Neighbor grants that will put police officers, teachers, first responders in homes in neighborhoods. So I think that there's many ideas that we can use, but it is very, very important because we have a very large shortage of police officers right now, and you have sometimes 2 police officers trying to cover Greenlee County. It's a huge county if you're only 2 police officers. So I think it's very important to look into every opportunity that we can look into, working with the sheriff's office, working with FMI, looking into grant writing possibilities for us to get some housing for those police officers.
Well, I'm gonna go a little further on this one. I feel like if you're an employee of Greenlee County, you need to live in Greenlee County. Be part of the community. We don't get much good out of what goes on over in Safford. And yes, we do need to address the housing issue. It'd be great to have those deputies living here. And I know there's only a few that live away now, but I am more than willing to address it. And I understand the Freeport issue, but not everybody can be housed in Morenci. And what good is that to our sheriff's department? We need deputies down here also. It's a long ways from Morenci to Duncan. Thank you.
Yeah, the question is, the sheriff's office is struggling to retain employees due to a lack of available company housing and the cost of external housing. How do you plan to support the sheriff's office in their efforts to keep employees?
So as all the candidates have mentioned, economic development in this community has been really hard. It's been a hardship that we've been faced with for a long time. Freeport is giving, like Kara said, but we need to have an open mind and kind of have a more broad span opinion about going out on the internet. Economic development. I'm sure the current supervisors have been doing this for a lot of years and doing their best they can to help the community. And as Will said, there might be other incentives that we could, work towards or offer or try to get grants for to help these police officers, because policing is super important in our community. Without their presence, a lot of the youth, even people, other people who meet them here, it wouldn't exist. So as a public service officer, we want to keep them here and we want to make sure that we do our best to accommodate them as well. Thank you.
I tend to agree with everything that has been said on this subject of housing and for the sheriff's department also, and everyone else that would like to remain here or own their own home here. We had a very good project going with Tyler Farms, and that one we finally had to give up on that property because of the Gila River watershed, that we couldn't get the tribe to come and sit at the table and to avoid ending up in litigation with them. So we had to pull away from there. So now we've shifted gears and we hired a hydrologist to look for water throughout the county where we can maybe find some land that's available. We're looking into state land, the possibility of state land, and talking about FMI. They're willing, as they were willing to partner with us over at Tyler Farms to get some of these homes built. So we're working on that right now, doing our due diligence. We've met with State Land Department, and we're going to continue and find a location that we can build some homes and accommodate anyone looking for one. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're going to Canidate. The question is, we are gaining more homes in the York area with land just being bladed and built upon. With the long distance from Duncan to York, what can or should be done about fire protection?
Well, I will not disparage our small little volunteer fire department because they are on top of things. From personal experience, I know that they get there quickly. I think in a rural community, you face those kinds of problems. It's just the nature of things. Living in a small community, you have Morenci Volunteer Fire Department and you have Duncan Volunteer Fire Department. I think that the county needs to make sure that they're supporting those departments because they cover such a vast area. I know that from personal experience, when that fire occurred at my daughter's house, we had Duncan Fire Department and Verdon Fire Department came. So even Verdon came from New Mexico to help with that. So I think that it's important to make sure that those volunteer fire departments are getting what they need, but they are volunteer fire departments. So it's not something that's necessarily funded by the county, but making sure that we work with them in any way that we can as the county supervisors to make sure that they have what they need to protect our citizens.
I hear there's a push for a York Fire District. It might make your property taxes go up a little bit, but it'd make your insurance go down. And I would welcome it. Those people up there need protection. They need fire protection. And it's always been an issue at the past that there were too many renters in York. Well, somebody still has to own that land, and it should drive their insurance down. Thank you.
The question is, we are gaining more homes in the York area with land just being bladed and built upon. With the long distance from Duncan to York, what can or should be done about fire protection?
So I know that it's passionate around people to be able to protect their homes and to protect others in their community. But not only in that area are we faced with this, we're also faced with this in Vernon and Loma Linda areas as well. I've talked to a lot of the residents, and it really isn't easy to just start up a new fire district without funding. It's not something that the county normally can jump right into. And so if we go down that avenue where we're wanting to add fire districts, it's going to take a community effort, and it's going to take a lot of resources outside of the community as well. Thank you.
This is a big mountain to climb when it comes to fire district, and you're right. We just need to continue to get someone to take this off the ground, and because the county is in fire district responsibilities. So I encourage folks from the communities that were just mentioned. I agree with Loma Linda, Verdi Lee, from Duncan, New York. You need to start holding meetings, putting meetings together, educating the people of what it would cost to do something like this, because the county we're the only state, luckily in the state of Arizona, the only county in the state of Arizona that furnishes a ambulance, and there's no other county that does what we do with ambulance service than Greenlee County. And so I encourage all the folks out there to start having meetings and get together and start the conversation on a fire department. That's what I can share with you right now. Thank you.
Being on the Duncan Fire Department, I do know that there is an agreement between Clifton, Morenci, Verdon, and Duncan, so that the York area is covered. When a call does come through, that those areas are covered. I'm sure all of you remember, it was just a few short years ago, about 5 years ago, that the Duncan area had to get the community together, get a certain amount of signatures from property owners in the area. My wife, Jill, was very involved there. I was on that board. to get that job completed. We did get that district work done, but it didn't come without a lot of effort, and didn't come without a lot of consultation from people who knew what they were doing. So I agree with Nicole, and I do agree with David. I do think as we see growth in the Verde Lee area, in the York area, that this is something that's going to have to be addressed, but this is not going to be an overnight cure or answer. We're going to have to get a committee together. We're going to have to get together and to form this, and it's going to have to be a property owner or property owners together to help unite this group and to be able to have this done. I do think it would be a great thing, but it's going to take a lot of effort. I would like to see the county involved with assisting the citizens and getting that word out to get that going. But as of right now, we just have the agreement amongst the 4 agencies, Clifton also, Morenci, Clifton, Duncan, and Burton. We have the 4 agencies that will cover those areas, but that's not the long-term answer. Thank you.
Okay, there's several questions regarding the fairgrounds, and you guys have all touched on it a little bit, so I'm just gonna kind of combine them a little bit so you guys can make sure to answer all of the constituents' questions. There's a question regarding that the county has not continued big revenue events such as horse racing and not budgeted a carnival for the fair for the last few years. What are your ideas to bring revenue to the county? And in addition to that, there's a question that I think needs to be cleared up as far as how you handle livestock animals that have been shown at multiple county fairs. What rules or ideas do you think should be in place to help the situation? It's all kind of regarding the fair in general, though. I think we're on Mr. Murdoch.
Okay. So to start it off, I'll start off with the livestock issue. I am all for every kid having an opportunity to show an animal. I think that you should be eligible to show one show. If you're from Burton and you show in Lawrenceburg and you're an FFA in Duncan, you show in Lawrenceburg, that's it. If you choose to show in Duncan, that's okay, so long as you don't show in Lawrenceburg. I think that's the answer to that. It's not fair to the Duncan kids because they don't live in New Mexico that they can't show both places. If the kids now that are eligible that live in New Mexico can show in Lawrenceburg and Duncan, be it different animals, but they're still getting the opportunity to go to 2 different shows. And it's not fair to these kids from Duncan that only get to go to one show.
The rest of the question was around not budgeting a carnival for the fair and what other ideas for revenue in Greenlee County.
Just like at the fair this year, we had a college rodeo, and that college rodeo, I thought it was pretty darn good. We had every event full. It was really good. It was different than the old Grand Canyon days where we might have one bulldogger show up, and every event was full. And at the end of that, they asked to do more events in Duncan. And just like these proposals at the fairgrounds for a second arena, if we get that, we can try to get high school rodeo, but it takes 2 arenas to put on a high school rodeo. And we need to bring those people into Duncan and make it better. It'll darn sure help. And was there anything else on that?
Budgeting the carnival.
Okay, yeah, and the carnival, this year, I've heard that the carnival company backed out, that it was actually paid for, and they decided at the last minute they couldn't make it. Now, I don't know that for a fact, but I have heard that. And I think that next year's fair should be planned right now. It should be done. We shouldn't be scrambling around at the last minute to figure out what we're going to do with the fair. It should be done right now, and the following year should be in the planning stage. Thank you.
That's a lot of questions to start answering, but I'll start off with not really knowing too much about the livestock in Duncan. I grew up in Runcie. I've had friends who have, done FFA and 4-H their whole lives and are pretty passionate around it. So I understand it's a big incentive down here. But one of the things that the county does put on, they do try and put on the county fair. But I think it's important that we walk before we run. So we have a capital project out here, right? Trying to get this place up to par and where it's going to be fit for the rest of the community. And that way, once we have that project completed, then we can work towards having more events, adding more to the venue and bringing more to the community. Thank you.
So the question is around budgeting for the carnival and ideas that you have to bring more revenue to Greenlee County. And then lastly, the issue with the livestock animals showing at multiple fairs.
When you mentioned the carnival or the fair, we don't put on this fair to make a profit. We put this fair on for the people of the county. And as far as putting things in place to make revenue, well, that's not the county's goal in regards to this fair. And and back to where you show animals, and I believe it's for the organization is in charge of that. The county wouldn't step in and say you can show over there and can't show here. So that's something that you folks are going to have to sit down and have a serious conversation about. Thank you.
I'm with David. I believe the 4-H, the FFA, and the GCYLA. I believe they work and decide and work together and determine who's showing what animals where. I believe it's very important that those groups work together. I think that we can all communicate and assist in facilitating that, but when it comes down to the youth and the organizations that they belong to, I would like to see the youth and those organizations making those decisions rather than putting that into the decisions of someone else's hands. I think it's most important that those who are involved make those decisions. Second of all, with the county and the fair, I do believe the county fair is for the citizens of Greenlee County. I echo JR's sentiment that that planning needs to be started and taken care of years in advance. I would like to see improvement there of budgets coming out for what we will have for the fair, maybe coming out 2 years in advance, 1 to 2 years in advance, because prices are changing so quickly. We have the organizations that are providing those rides. Their insurance policies are going up all the time. They may not be around. We need to get them signed up and get them taken care of and locked up now so that we don't have the issues and situations of cancellations or getting a group that's not fully prepared. I think that we can have quarterly meetings with those organizations over time to make sure that they're still ready, but get them signed up and prepared early so that we can have a successful fair for everyone involved. I would like to see also in that fair plan, which I've always also covered earlier in this discussion, of seeing more of the organizations involved and having more of the town halls to decide, are we going to invite high school rodeos here? Are we going to invite college rodeos here? That will determine the setup for what the final plan or plat is going to be for the fairgrounds so that we can be prepared for those crowds and can be prepared to assist those people so that this will be an inviting area for people to come to, a place that people want to come to. I know when my relatives, friends, family, acquaintances come to Duncan, they love this area and they think it's a great area. Why not have that facility ready for them? And that can be, in and of itself, a fundraiser for Greenlee County. Thank you.
I'm not going to delve too much into the livestock question because I think that is best left to the groups that run that and the kids that participate in that. And I think that we can support them as the county supervisors, but we shouldn't be making that decision. As far as the fairgrounds and the fairgrow, I think that the money that is being put into this fairgrounds creates a great opportunity for our communities to bring revenue to our communities, which in turn bring revenue to our county. Making sure that people that are going to be affected by the changes in the fairground are heard, and that our facilities are going to be used the best way that can be used for those community groups is really important, because as the fair was here and everyone is saying that it's for the people, it is for the people, but if the people aren't happy with how it's running, then who's going to come and enjoy it? So making sure that you have the input from the groups that are going to be affected by the use of the facilities is important, but also planning. We need to let the Lindsay know, what is your budget going to be this next year? Let's get it started now so that she knows she can put people in place that are going to help with the parade and help with the exhibits, and really getting into contact with the schools so that we have lots of youth activities brought into the exhibit building. We want those youth involved. We want them to be coming to the fair so they can show their parents what they did in art class or what they did in science class. We want people to be involved because it is for them. So really making sure that those lines of communication are open with the community and finding out what the community wants, making sure the finances are available to the people who need to have it, like Will says, either a year or two in advance, and making sure it's fun for everyone.
Okay, I just want to remind everyone, these questions come in anonymously, and so I understand that not all constituents understand all of those aspects. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to explain how that is currently handled. This last question is really similar in that aspect. I think that the person asking the question may not understand how the taxes leave the mine, go to the state, and come back to the county. Because the question is, when will the county look at adjusting the mine tax to increase the county revenue? Could you please talk on that and explain how that works and if there is any possibility for change? We're starting with Nicole.
Yeah, can you repeat it? None of us were.
The question is, when will the county look at adjusting the mine tax to increase the county revenue?
This is a tough one. This one is tough for me to answer because I'm not really too sure about what they're really asking. So I'm gonna kind of omit my answer to this one just because I don't want to misspeak on how the process actually works. Thank you.
Marcy, what did you say about the line?
So they're asking why when will the county look at adjusting the mine tax?
The mine tax? Well, you know, we can adjust the mine tax. I mean, revenues from the mine are all determined by the price of copper. And as we all know, we work with that very closely. If the price of copper dips, we tighten our belt. If the price of copper excels, we do good. But we don't have any tool or anything to set that mine tax.
This subject was covered in the June Board of Supervisors meeting. I don't know if any of you had watched that, but in that meeting, our county manager did the explanation that the mine taxes, as David says, are determined upon the price of copper. So if the price of copper goes up, then the taxes, of course, will be more. As the price of copper goes down, then what we see from Freeport and the Morenci mine will be less. Also, Freeport assists us too with funds above and beyond that, and those also are contingent upon the price of copper. At that June meeting, our county manager made it clear that those funds would be a little bit less going into this fiscal year of 2025 because the mine costs have been going up. incrementally faster than what the price of copper's been going up. So they're looking at less of a profit margin. So we as citizens of Greenlee County need to be prepared for coming up for the fiscal year of 2025 of having less of the funds, and that has been budgeted into the 225 budget. I'd like to thank the Board of Supervisors and our town manager for having that foresight to see that and to prepare for that. When I'm in office, I'm going to make sure I'm preparing for that too and looking forward. This is part of that forecasting for our 1, 5, 7, and 20-year forecast so that we prepare as a county so that we know what's coming up. I know we can't know the price of copper, but usually they come out with those prices a year to 18 months in advance so that we can be prepared for the future. So my answer, Marcy, is that is a variable price and we do not have any control over that. Thank you.
I won't mimic what everyone else has said about it's really not in our control, but I will say all of us who are from this area know when FMI is good, we're good. That when copper's high, our town is high, our county is high, because we have more people and we have more people shopping in our businesses. And I think that that's important, that we do rely on that. It's just the nature of living here is relying on that. I don't think people are quite aware of how much revenue comes in from FMI on top of the taxes that they pay. I think that they do a very good job of helping support our county in many things and are always there to kind of back us up when we may need them. So I think that the question kind of might be going towards how can we make FMI pay us more? I think FMI pays us quite a bit. And I think working with them as the Board of Supervisors will continue to, because county good, FMI good too. So I think it's really important that people understand that they do pay above and beyond what the taxes are.
It's my understanding that that tax is taxed at the state level. That money goes from Morenci to the state, and then it's delivered back to Greenlee County per capita, but it goes to every other county in the state. It's not like back in the 60s, Greenlee County kept that money. We were one of the fattest counties in the country. They built the $1 million highway, the road up to Frisco out of Clifton with county money, no outside fund. And I know the legislature has stolen that money from us basically, and we need to figure out how to get that back. Thank you.
That concludes the questions. If you want to do a closing statement, you're open to do that. We can start with Nicole.
They took it to a whole nother level, putting us in the hot seat up here. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody for sitting out here and listening to us about why we're passionate about this position. I do want to talk about how I want to move forward with the open line of communication with the citizens of this community. The youth is very important to me, as well as the elderly. And we have a lot of veterans also in this county who serve every day. They're always doing something for someone. So I'd like to also have a lot of help and resources throughout the community, give back to them as well. I also do have a background in criminal justice and studies, so I would be very supportive of the policing and the government inside of this community as well. They're very important to us and to our youth. I know in our Meet the Candidate, we talked a lot about school resources, and since then I've been hearing a lot of good things about people being excited to see that come alive. With that being said, thank you everybody and stay safe.
I'll echo what Nicole just said, but thank you folks for being here. Sometimes you kind of wonder why people get into politics, because to a certain degree it's a thankless job, because you can't please everybody. And, but you know what, we try our best. I think that, Greenlee County sits very well where we're at, being one of the smallest counties in the state of Arizona. And, we're gonna continue to operate the way we operate. I'm gonna get a list of the questions that Marcy asked us all and take them and share them with my, colleagues and, see how we can address some of those issues. And, so because we take all this stuff serious, and, we hope that we're doing okay with you folks. I'm sure that everyone has complaints. You know, you just can't do everything right for everyone, but, we're gonna do everything we can at addressing these issues that were asked of the Board of Supervisors, and hope we have a good 4 years to come, you know. And as far as the revenues coming from that go down to the state and then get dispersed, as Mr. Murdoch mentioned, they go out throughout the entire state. We get about a penny per dollar of revenue from what goes out of here from this copper mine. Everybody, anytime I go out of the area and go to a county supervisors association, they all think that we're fat cats over here, just ripping the riches with this mine that sits here. But that's not the case. But thank God that they're one of our greatest partners here in this county, and they care about all you folks. They really do. And I think you're fully aware of that. Thank you.
First of all, again, as I did on my opening, I'd like to thank everyone for being here. I know that Saturday mornings are very difficult. We have lots of things going. We work throughout the week, so thank you for being here, and thank you for taking interest in the process. Second of all, I'd like to thank those that are up here with me, David and Nicole, and I'd like to especially thank Ms. Wagley and Mr. Murdoch. I'd like to thank them for being a part of the process. I know it's been a long season. It seems like we started this in April, March time, and time has not flown by. We've had a lot of things going on, a lot of activities. So I'd like to thank them very much for not only being candidates, but also being friends throughout the process. I do love Greenlee County. I love living here. I've raised my family here. I will continue to stay here. I'm looking forward to working here in Greenlee County for the coming future. There's many things here in Greenlee County that we have challenges with. I know many times in our conversations as family and friends, in our conversations in social media, we tend to focus on the negative. I'd like to just, as you go to your homes this evening, as you leave this function this afternoon, perhaps take the time and look at the positives of Greenlee County. We have beautiful weather. We have wonderful people here. When there's a problem, we all gather together and we assist one another. That's a privilege to live in a community like that and in a county like that. Not all counties can say that. How lucky, how blessed we are to live together. After this process is over with, we'll continue into the future, is what Mr. Gomez says, and we'll work together and team up and make Greenlee County continue to improve. We have lots of challenges ahead of us, but it's nothing that we can't overcome. I'd also like to thank my wife, who's been very, very instrumental in helping me run, and my family for assisting, and all those friends who have assisted me also. You've been a great support. I'd like to thank the voters also, and for participating in the voting process. Thanks again, and everyone, please have a safe afternoon.
I would like to thank everyone for being here. I know that giving up a Saturday morning, being out in the heat isn't always the funnest thing, but I'm glad to see some people out here who are interested in getting to know us as candidates a little bit better, especially since our ballots just went out. And so I hope that we all left you with some food for thought about what we think and what we believe, how we can work to better our county and our districts. I think that really utilizing the things that are coming up and giving opportunity to our youth is incredibly important in this county. I want to keep all the kids here. I work in education and I see what great kids we have in this community, in this county. And I think that giving them as many opportunities to be active in our county is incredibly important. I think that working closely with our sheriff's department, with our first responders, with all of our county officials is important to make sure that our county is transparent and people understand what's going on in our county. I think oftentimes if you don't attend things like this, or you don't go to board and supervisor meetings, or you're not involved, you kind of lose sight of what's really going on in your county. So I really think that it's important to open those lines of communication and make sure that the people of our county understand what's going on with our elected officials and our board of supervisors, because I don't think that that's common knowledge. So making sure that those lines of communication are open, people feel like they can come to you as a supervisor and say, I'm really interested in helping this way or having something happen this way. It's really important to have people know that you're going to hear them. So I'm just all about, I love my county, I love the people in my county, and I would really like to represent you as your District 3 supervisor.
Again, I'd like to thank all of you for being here, and it really says a lot about all of you that you're in attendance today. Thank you so much. As your full-time supervisor, I will be fully committed and available and open door policy, fully transparent. I believe it's essential for people's voices to be heard. My question is, why not vote for somebody that's been in that livestock farm, been in this arena, been on that Little League field? Why not vote for somebody that knows what's going on and understands the stresses and the issues at hand? Thank you all again.
I'm going to thank the candidates again for coming out and braving the heat. October is not supposed to be this warm, but thank them. If they brought up some new questions in your mind from the answers that were given or not given, please visit with them afterwards and make sure that you do get all your questions answered. Next, I'd like to invite the sheriff candidates up to the stage.
Supposed to be nicer in October. If they move us together at least a little bit, you guys do like each other.
All right, with us, we have the three candidates running for sheriff. We have Mr. Dale Sloan running as a Republican, Mr. Daniel Medina running as a Democrat, and Mr. Eric Ellison running as an independent. They'll start out with their opening remarks for 5 minutes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dale Sloan, and I want to thank you so much for coming out here today and listening to all these candidates. I'm a native to the area. I was born in Morenci, but I was raised up in Springerville when we moved up there in 1980. But I've spent my entire life in this county, whether it was recreation, visiting family, or contract working out of the mine. During my time up in Springville, I graduated from the Round Valley High School and eventually gained employment with the Apache County Sheriff's Office. And I worked my way up from a patrol deputy to 2 different positions as a sergeant. I was a patrol sergeant, which was responsible for working the southern half of the county, and also an administrative sergeant. During that time there, I gained a lot of experience. I worked as a TLO, Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, violent crimes, member of the Arizona Homicide Investigations Association for like 5 years. My education also includes an associate's in criminal justice, and I also have a bachelor's in criminal justice administration management. And can you guys hear me all right?
There we go.
Is that better? Okay. So I said I have an associate's in criminal justice and a bachelor's in criminal justice administration management. I also am a member of the National Society of Leadership and Success. I got into law enforcement because I wanted to serve. Is tremendous for me. I'm a very constitutional person. I stand firm on the Constitution because the job of the sheriff goes beyond just doing criminal cases. It's about serving the people and protecting their constitutional rights. I look forward to the questions and visiting with all you folks. And again, thank you for attending.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Medina. I'm a native of Greenlee County. I was born and raised here. So, majority of my life I went to Clifton School. I graduated from Clifton in 1997. I went to work for Jay's, Desert Sage, landscaping. I did a bunch of stuff. And I always enjoyed doing civic duty. I actually was lucky enough to join the Clifton Fire Department at 19. I stayed with them for many years until I promoted out to deputy in 2005. I began my journey with the sheriff's office in 2000 in detention and dispatch. I've always enjoyed doing things for the county. I've been coaching Little League since my oldest was 8. I mean, I've continued to help with all-star teams, doing many things in the community when I can, like the W. Steve Martin, giving toys to the unfortunate, or to the people that we've like went in into their house, because it's a great program, W. Steve Martin, where we've like unfortunately arrested a parent and we'll go in at Christmas and give the kids toys. I mean, I've done a lot of community service. My leadership began 3 years in. I was promoted to investigation under Steve Tucker. Under Steve Tucker, I was also promoted to sergeant investigator, which I was lucky enough with Frank Montoya. Both of us were promoted. Ruben Boss was just a patrol sergeant. Then when Sheriff Sumner came in, I was promoted just to patrol sergeant. He eliminated the investigation patrol, or the investigative sergeant. And I've always just enjoyed doing my job for Greenlee County. I mean, I've worked major crimes. I got to, unfortunately, work a crime with the FBI up in the blue on the Loose Ranch. And learning from the FBI was fun. I've been to many trainings under Sheriff Tucker, Sheriff Avila. I mean, I got to be a jack of all trades, from traffic to investigations. Leadership, I've gone to Arizona County Insurance Pool leadership, Arizona Post leadership. I actually got to attend Arizona or Post advanced leadership training, like kind of academy for 3 weeks, which was awesome. I mean, I've worked major crimes in Duncan. I've worked minor crimes in Duncan. I've always enjoyed working Duncan, Clifton, Morenci, Verde Lee, Loma Linda. I mean, to me, I've always got to work wherever I wanted, and that's great. And I'm roasting in this heat, so I'm going to sit down now. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Eric Elson. Excuse me. A little bit about myself. Everybody knows that I love cars and lots of parades, car shows. And what those are all about is to raise money for the Safe House, which I've been a board member of. And so not only that, I'm also part of the Greenlee County Drug Coalition, which I started in Safford in Graham County with Kathy Grimes. I taught most of their conferences through the Greenlee County Drug Task Force. And so that's where kind of all my experience came from, was when I worked for Arizona Highway Patrol. I was the drug recognition expert, and I taught almost every agency in the state of Arizona about drugs and apprehension of drugs. And I loved it. I'd love to be able to serve people. I would love to be able to take criminals off the road to make the roads and the societies a little bit safer for you. I've been in law enforcement for about 28 years. December 17th will be 28 years. So I've been doing this a long time. I started with Department of Corrections, then went to Arizona Highway Patrol, and in 2017, I worked for Sheriff Sumner as his undersheriff. I retired, and then I went to work for Greenlee County Attorney's Office, where I've been the special investigator for the Greenlee County Attorney's Office. I've had my hands into any and almost every kind of case that you can think of, whether it's bank fraud, forgery, murder, rape, child molesting, you name it. I've had it investigated almost every case that you can think of. And luckily, we've been able to get convictions on most of those cases. So I feel like I've been very successful in that. I pride myself in being honest and having integrity. I love this community that have ended up in 2017. We moved to Duncan. In 2006, from when I came from Globe, we lived in Morenci on Dandelion Drive. And so we've been in this area since 2006. I was stationed both Greenlee and Graham County both, so I've always been patrolling this area and working hard to provide safety and make you feel better and safe in your homes and in your schools and your churches. Thank you for having me here today to talk to you.
All right, the candidates drew numbers just like the supervisor candidates did, and Mr. Sloan drew the number 1, so he'll answer the first question first. The first question is, there's a lot of talk and concern about the experience that will be required for the office of the sheriff, and who of the candidates has what experience that is best for the office of sheriff. Describe in detail why you are the most qualified candidate for this position.
You guys hear me okay? Okay. Well, during my tenure with the sheriff's office up in Apache County, I held leadership roles, like I said, as a sergeant. I supervised the southern half of the county, which was multiple deputies. I supervised complex cases with those deputies, worked hand in hand with those deputies. And there's a difference between being a boss and being a leader. And having that qualification of being in those complex crimes and leading those guys and working with them side by side, only helped them grow, but it also helped me grow. Everything's a learning curve. You never stop learning, especially in law enforcement. We also own a business here, so I understand the difference between wants and needs and spending money. I'm the type of person who is always willing to reach across the aisle and work with the other people to try to reach a common goal, which is the service to our community, because we are all bound to the service of the people. That is our goal. And in doing so, I have upheld the Constitution, like when COVID hit. We refused to mandate masks, separations of people, and whatnot. We are free Americans, and we believe in that. And as far as the ranchers go, I've worked hand in hand with ranchers for a long time in trying to help them protect their way of life. I understand what the ranchers go through, the farmers go through, the water situation that's going on right now for the farmers. Again, I've worked a lot with other agencies. I'm the type of person that always just reaches outside because being a small agency such as Greenlee County, you need to be able to work with other agencies for the common good and get the needs met for the people here. I am a leader that is needed. I am a very constitutional person again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Remember, you don't have to stop abruptly, just finish your sentence, I'm just letting you know.
So I believe my experience as a sergeant is going to help me, but being sheriff is going to be a learning curve because I wrote grants for GOHS. I wrote grants for 100 Club to get us tasers, but managing a budget is going to be a new learning experience for me, and I'm going to rely on my team to help me understand what we need to ask for, what we need to budget. I mean, being a leader is about bringing those that are with you up, because we're gonna have to bring these young deputies, get them trained, get them educated, and get everybody on board with learning new things. I mean, it's not gonna be the easiest task. I mean, because you're gonna have to manage, as sheriff, 3 divisions. You're gonna have to manage patrol, dispatch, and detention. Those are 3 big main priorities of any sheriff. And I believe my 24 years in doing all 3 of those helps me in understanding all those positions. Where I'm going to be lacking, yeah, is in budget, but I think I can rely on the board's office and some of those workers to help me understand where the budget's at, understanding the line items. I mean, because those are things we're going to have to look at, because I'm going to have to bring up my training budget, because getting these guys up where they need to be. Some of these deputies who have 3-4 years on aren't where they should be, like FTO, instructor, stuff like that. And building those things, we're gonna have to build from the bottom up. And me doing all this for the sheriff's office for the past 24 years, I think I have an understanding on leadership, on what basic things to ask for, on how to build and maintain a cohesive group with hopefully build that retention. And it's not gonna be the easiest thing because we are short-staffed. Like tonight, I have a great team because they allowed me to take off and there's only 3 of them working. Thank you.
I think what sets me apart is I work for many agencies. And one of the agencies I work for is Arizona Highway Patrol. And what that allowed me to do was see how multiple agencies worked. Now, I taught all these other agencies, Safford, Thatcher, Benson, Sierra Vista, Pinal County, Gila County, Globe, Miami, all these agencies I worked really, really well with, and gave me the opportunity to see what worked well in their agencies and what didn't work well in their agencies. And that gave me the upper hand to see what really worked well I could bring to Greenlee County and create a great and fantastic, well-rounded agency here. And it's not, I really believed in Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan believed in building men and making experts out of those men and women. And I really believe if I can make experts out of these deputies and make them the best that they can be, then our community will flourish. If they do a superb job in all their duties, our community will grow and be better and better. I want to build a bond between law enforcement and our citizens, better community policing, something that will help and encourage growth. And when we do that, you'll see some of our crimes start disappearing, our drug problems, our theft problems. I also believe in our Constitution. I'm going to be there I believe in guns. I know all of our citizens here in Greenlee County, no matter what party you have, you believe in your guns. Everybody likes to go hunting and fishing and enjoy their outdoor activities. I'm going to stand there for you. Nobody's going to take your guns, not with me here. I'm going to protect your water rights and your cattle, your ranchers. I believe in the Constitution. For 28 years, I've upheld the Constitution. I supported that Constitution. and I will always continue to fight for your constitutional rights. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next question will start with Mr. Medina. Being sheriff comes with great responsibility. Why should the voters trust you with this responsibility, and how will you hold yourself accountable while in office?
So the great responsibility is starting with professionalism. I mean, building that professionalism, you got to hold yourself to a higher standard. You got to hold your deputies to a higher standard. You got to hold your whole department to a higher standard. Understanding that professionalism brings professional people to work for you. If you don't have that professional standard, all stuff's going to fall to the wayside. And I want to be held accountable by the people. I want, if Mr. Tom Powers goes, hey, Daniel, I want to see you. You guys are kind of messing up. I want to be able to go to his house, talk to him, understand what he's seeing and why he thinks my department's messing up. Because I think ultimately it's the voters. If you guys did get me in, it's those people that are holding me to a standard. And I want those people to call my office, show up, and want to be able to talk to me, because the voters are the ones that need to hold the sheriff to the standard. I need to hold my people to a professional standard. And with that professional standard, everybody wants to work, everybody wants to live and enjoy Greenlee County, because having deputies who are professional but yet ready to fight for you is the best thing. And ultimately, me being transparent with the people, using Facebook, using Messenger, using all those things that I think we've let go to the wayside, and also building community relations will help bring the people to want to call silent witness and make us held accountable. Because if they don't see us holding us accountable, like if we're not doing our job, silent witness, you guys report drugs, we need to be out there fighting those drugs where you guys say they're at. And if you're not seeing no deputies, you need to come in and go, hey, why is this not being battled? And I mean, I understand we're short-staffed right now. I mean, we're trying to do the best we can. I think we are offensive, but we need to go defensive too.
So I believe in transparency. It's the first thing on my flyer. Transparency, accountability, and leadership. I don't think if we're not transparent about what we're doing, nobody's going to trust us. You know, we owe it to you that we are there for you. You know, I ran independent is because I didn't want any party pushing me one way or the other. I wanted the voice of the people telling me what you needed. And that way you can tell the sheriff's office what to do. I want to be the times of do as I say and not as I do to be over with. As elected me, you won't have that. You will hold us accountable, and we'll hold ourselves accountable. We won't investigate our own. We'll have other agencies investigate us if we have an at-fault thing, whether it's a domestic or a traffic accident or whatever the case may be. We're going to reach out to others so we can be transparent. And if we mess up, we're going to tell you we messed up, and these are the steps that we're going to take to do better. I truly believe that if we can come together as a community, again, we can stop some of the crimes that are coming before us. We can work well with other agencies. We need to depend on other agencies to address our shortcomings, like on 191 for highway patrol, US 70 highway patrol, reckless drivers. We need to be able to address all of the county's needs. So if we work well with others, we'll be able to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, the question is, being sheriff comes with great responsibility. Why should voters trust you with this responsibility, and how will you hold yourself accountable while in office?
Great question. So I stand on accountability. I expect the public to hold me, if I'm elected as sheriff in this department, accountable for what we do. We live in a fishbowl. So everybody that works at the sheriff's office lives inside this fishbowl. And the whole outside sees us. And what we do also outside of work reflects on us inside work. And the first thing I'm gonna do is bring back communication to establish that transparency. Even if it makes us look bad, the general public has a right to know, and we can work through that. I'm also internal affairs certified. I refuse to do any internal affairs up there within our own agency. It has to be outside agencies. We have to conflict out in order to keep the integrity of the sheriff's office. That's super important. And so having that communication back to the public also helps us with combating crime. And if we don't have the public's trust, we have nothing. And I always put my uniform on with the intentions of doing the very best I could every day. And while I was putting that uniform on, I remind myself, I am a citizen first, I'm a law enforcement officer second. How do I want to be treated in this? What do I expect out of my agency? How do I want to be treated? Those things are huge. And that is something I will stand firm on. We need the trust. We need the community. The community will police the community. And we need that help. Sheriff's office can't be everywhere at once. And so it's very important that we establish that. We get that communication out. And that you guys know what your sheriff's office is doing every day because you have a right. Thank you.
All right, we'll start the third question with Mr. Ellis. The question is, what would you do to improve school safety? What is your stance on school resource officers? And if in favor, how would you balance the resources among all of the Greenlee County campuses?
I'm very glad you asked that because I'm really excited to answer that question. So for the last 8 years, we've had funding for a school resource officer in Morenci. And that one would have to be hired out. And what it does is we get an extra officer for our department. So during school time, they'll be there the whole time. And in summertime, that gets another deputy on the road. So that's great, right? But the most important thing is every study that I've ever read and every training I've ever been to says that an unprotected school is a potential target. Now, it doesn't matter what size of the community you live in. It's just the facts. You know, this is this day and age. Now, it's kind of like having a mean barking dog, you know, in your front yard. A burglar's not going to come to your house and rob you because you got a mean dog. And they're going to go to a different house. So it's the same scenario as that. But it's important that we have a school resource officer there in the schools, and also Duncan, both of them. I've talked to Denise Benton through United Way, and she said that there's a very, very high chance that we'll be able to get a school funding for a school resource officer here as well in Duncan. So both schools will have school resource officers in my plan. And how do we get through all the campuses? Well, we're going to have a special radio assigned to each school, and they'll be able to communicate with that deputy alone so they can have a quick response between the schools. And then again, you know, there was about a year ago, we had a shooting on Tamarisk in Morenci, and those were from high school kids, you know. And I truly believe if you had a school resource officer in those schools, that you would be able to stop that before it happened, because some student's going to come and talk to you and say, hey, you know, there's something bad's going to happen after school. And if we don't have anybody there, they're not going to be able to say anything. If there's drugs in the locker room or fight in the parking lot, who are they going to tell? There's nobody they can tell right now. They got to tell their teacher. Then the teacher tells the principal, and the principal calls 911. And then 45 minutes later, law enforcement comes up. It's not working. So I really believe a school resource officer is the answer to our schools.
So our schools, our students are our most precious resource, our kids. They are our future. And having SROs in these schools is very important to me. It's on my path. That's one of the top things I want to work on. There's lots of grant money for that, for resource officers in Morenci and down here in Duncan. And when you have a place where there's a challenge to a threat, most likely that threat will not ever occur, because the school shootings that you see or places were challenged, the threat wasn't challenged until law enforcement gets there. And so it's very important that we work on school resources. It's not the same schools that I grew up in. So it's important that we do this. Along with those things, you know, there's a program called the Explorers that I'd like to initiate with the SROs. And that is to start kids around 14 years of age, getting them interested in first responders such as law enforcement, fire, EMS. And it gives these kids some sort of structure and a guideline to live by. They can't do drugs, they have to keep their grades up, they can't get in trouble with law enforcement and things like that. They have to be able to maintain the discipline. And it gives these kids some structure. And hopefully we can rear up locals that want to stay here and be a part of our emergency programs here and help solve some of our retention issues. So that's one of my goals. The other thing is, like I said, on these grant monies, you get another officer outside during the summertime because 80% of the SRO's time has to be applied to the school during the school year. But even with that, you still can run random deputies through the schools and talk and walk the hallways. It's not just one SRO at each place. Communication between the school will be enhanced. And I thank you.
What would you do to improve school safety? What is your stance on school resource officers? And if in favor, how would you balance resources among all of the Greenlee County campuses?
So for me, Morenci has a United Way, but we need to fill positions first. Building up those positions to fill the United Way school resource officer, and like say I can get more positions in there. I want to use the school education grant that sponsors SROs. They have sponsored 14 SROs through 14 counties. I think we're the only county that doesn't have an SRO. Doing that research, I mean, if we can get the SRO for Duncan and the SRO through the United Way grant for Morenci, we were able to divide their time like Morenci's or Duncan's 410s, Morenci's 5.8s. We'll be able to send and rotate those officers out to get to the blue. The blue is a vital school area just like Morenci and Duncan. I mean, yeah, they don't have as many students as we do down here, but we need to look after them just as much. I mean, I've always enjoyed going to the blue when I'd go with Danielle when she was school resource officer. I mean, I always enjoyed going with her to the schools. We actually did try building an Explorer program, but it was ill-fated. Not a lot of kids joined. They were either scared of the law enforcement or that stigma. But I believe that coaching and other stuff have helped me gain the trust of young men and women because they still come up to me, still talk to me, and being their mentor as a coach has helped. I mean, I believe that we've tried Sheriff Sumner before he became sheriff. He tried like a little Explorer program down here. I mean, it would only last 3 weeks during the summer. It was a good program, but I don't think any of those young men and women went into law enforcement. I mean, we need to start recruiting, hitting the ground, going to job fairs, doing stuff. But our main priority with the schools is writing those grants, not taxing the United Way for both schools. I mean, because the school of education is an important resource.
We good there? Okay. I just want to make sure you didn't need to add anything. I cut several of you guys off. Okay. The next question, I think we are back on Mr. Sloan. The question is, drugs seem to be one of the most pressing problems here in Greenlee County. How do you plan to combat the drug problems plaguing our community?
Drugs has been an evil tearing down communities and schools for a long time. And one of my ideas to combat this is get our guys trained up in drug interdiction and learning drug investigations, working CIs, and working the schools when it comes into the SRO stuff too, because these kids go to school with these THC vapes, things like that. Drug education, terror programs, things like that for our young people. This comes back to our community policing. We have to work with the community to know exactly where our drug houses are. And during this campaign, I've been pointed out some things, and it's been eye-opening on some of this. I have great resources that I can reach out to help us. HIDA and interdiction programs from Apache County. We'll work with them. So they need to be put on notice. The other thing is that Stone Garden grant, being able to work interdiction on these roads, because not only does Greenlee County have drugs in our county, but it's a thoroughfare to other counties. And we want to make this so difficult that they choose another place, because the people of this county are fed up with it. I'm fed up with it. I'm sick of the drugs destroying families, and burglaries are happening. Burglaries go up and their drugs are high because they're trying to do whatever they can to get their next fix. And so that's one of my ideas is with the Stone Garden grant, the GOHS grant, stuff like that. You're constantly working the roads, and we will be working with the public on learning all the drug houses and the activity, working in the schools, education for our young people to get off the drugs, stay away from the drugs. Thank you.
So right now, my ultimate goal is to start small. I want all these deputies in the community fighting these small amounts, getting these small drug users, start converting them into CIs. We need to start working from the small side again versus the big side. We need to stop looking at the highway, start looking in the community. There's cocaine coming in again like crazy, meth, and these dispensaries and marijuana have been killing us in the schools. I mean, and I'm not in favor of the law, because you catch these kids with marijuana, it's like giving them a speeding ticket. It doesn't do anything, but if I catch them with alcohol, it's a misdemeanor. I mean, combating drugs in Greenlee County is going to have to start from the small again and start building up. I always enjoyed, as investigations, we would work with DPS investigation unit out of Safford. They would come in, they would run our CIs or help us run our CIs. I mean, bringing those units back in to help us combat those drugs, just starting from the small things versus trying to get the big drugs right now. Because, I mean, the drugs, they come in, and yes, like a couple of years back, about a year or so ago, on Collet Loop, just north of there between Martinez and Collet Loop, there was backpacks, and you could see where 12 bundles were in each back, or a bundle was in each backpack. I mean, so we do have big drugs that do come in, and hitting those are hit and miss with us and DPS. We're not going to eradicate drugs in Greenlee County. We just need to start from the small, work to the big. And ultimately, that's where I think combating drugs in Greenlee County is going to affect us the most, is starting small, starting in the communities, getting the people that we know are the small-time users, and just start slowly building and dealing with those drugs in the community. Thank you.
2 minutes really isn't enough to go over drugs. I'm a drug recognition expert. I've been for a long, over 20 years, drug recognition expert. I disagree. I do think you have to do a massive operation just to stop drugs. And with being a highway patrol and having contacts throughout the state, I'm going to reach out to Phoenix or Tucson for their DPS investigators to come into our community. I'll tell you what, because none of us, any of our deputies here, cannot work undercover in Greenlee County, because everybody knows who we are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to implant an investigator from another agency into our community. And instead of just stopping one house, we're going to do an operation on 20 houses. And when we do an operation on 20 houses, they'll buy drugs from all 20 houses. And in one day, we'll do 20 arrested. And so it'll be an operation. And once you do that, you bring the level of drugs down. And after that, it's maintaining the drug level. And that's through community policing, driving through your community. Right now, our deputies usually just kind of do as they want, sitting on the side of the road. We're going to have them drive through sectors. And they'll drive through community sectors and check on houses. And that way, they'll start talking to people, actually doing a routine. And later on, we'll shake them up a little more. We're gonna say, hey, deputies, you're gonna stop at the end of the street. You're gonna walk down the street. You're gonna talk to people. and you're gonna get to know your people, because if you live in your neighborhood, you know where your drug problem is, because you live there. And if there's somebody selling drugs the street down, you're gonna know it, and you're gonna tell deputies where your drug problem is. I've been working as the investigator for quite a long time, almost 6 years now, and you wouldn't believe the amounts of information that I have had come into the county attorney's office on our drug problem. You know, we know that we have a theft problem in York. You know, they're stealing watches and wallets and purses out of cars. As spread, D&D storage got hit. Napa was robbed. When you have a bad theft problem, you have a horrendous drug problem, and we do. We just have to act on it. Once we drop the level of drugs, we got to maintain that level of drugs through training, through grants. You know, the Burns grant is a good way. It was $30,000 grant just strictly on drug apprehension and doing sting operations. We're going to train our guys. So that's one thing. The Stone Garden grant, when I worked there, it was $8,000. It brought to $182,000. We were able to apprehend drugs, sex trafficking, and illegal immigration through that grant. What was unique about that grant is we could train our deputies through that grant on how to apprehend drugs.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add something else. Part of my plan is a multi-agency task force. I'd like to get with Graham County, Clifton, Safford, Thatcher, any other local agency that wants to get involved and work as a task force that would work CIs and whatnot, and do these drug investigations within our county. Thank you.
Supervisor, you guys need 30 seconds more.
So that's one thing I've been doing is that I have been attending every week on Tuesday. We have a task force meeting, and that includes all the Graham County agencies. And we need to make that bigger and better. We need to, because we all live in a spider web. And what happens in Graham County happens in Duncan and in Morenci. What happens in Lordsburg happens here. And we need to share our intel. It's not about the pride of the agency arresting. It's about the common good and getting these drugs out of our community. We have to share our intel with other agencies so we can arrest those criminals.
All right, I think we're on Mr. Medina for the next question. Okay. The next question is, the Board of Supervisors has made efforts to close the Greenlee County Jail and instead house them in another facility. What is your stance on this?
Well, working for the Greenlee County Detention Facility, like early in my career, I think it's a facility we need. I mean, because I think us transporting to Grant County, transporting to Globe, puts a strain on detention, puts a strain on deputies. So are we gonna have to lose jobs? I mean, is that part of the economic development that we're talking about? Because if we lose 15 jobs in the jail, where are all those displaced people going? I prefer to save jobs in Greenlee County. I prefer to keep the inmates here. I prefer to build a smaller facility. I'd actually like to build a multi-jurisdictional facility with Clifton and us, and then have the smaller jail in back, because I don't think we need a 200-man facility. I think we could do it with an 80 to 100-man facility, and I think one of the perfect examples is the old juvenile center in Stafford. It was a direct supervision unit. They could see into all the pods. I mean, but saving those jobs is what I like. I mean, keeping the employment here. So are those detention officers that are already here gonna have to go somewhere else? And are they gonna allow us to use those detention jobs as patrol jobs then if they do cut the facility? But my ultimate goal would to maintain the facility, and I would love to maintain the employments that are currently here. Thank you.
Yes, I don't know if you realize how much money the jail was budgeted last year for the jail. It was $2.2 million that we were budgeted for the jail. Now, in 2006, we always carried anywhere from 25 to 30 inmates in the Greenlee County Jail. For the last 6 years, it's 6.6 inmates, and we're paying $2.2 million for 6.6 inmates in the jail. So I understand their frustration, because we're really not paying for what we're getting, and I understand that. but I want to have the chance to build the jail. And because I truly believe once we're out there working and we're apprehending the drugs and we're arresting the sex offenders and the fraud, that our jail is going to start filling up again. And with that saying, we need to start educating and training our jail staff. We need to make them to where they're aware of drug-induced schizophrenia, suicidal, all the things that are important for the jail to recognize the signs and symptoms of drug use, so they can actually help, and support your 8th Amendment right, cruel and unusual punishment. Our jail is falling apart. I don't agree on building a brand new jail. I really don't, because it's going to be $15, $20 million. I do believe that we can refurbish the one we have and make it better. And with that said, I just, a $20 million bill for a new jail, that's going to have to come from taxpayers. You're going to have to pay for that. And I don't think that you're willing to do that right now, especially with the deficit the country is in, and then that would be a jail bond, which we'd have to vote on. And so I really think that refurbishing our jail is the way to go. And giving us the chance to build the jail and make it great and sufficient for just not the staff, but the inmates as well.
The question was, let me find it again. The Board of Supervisors has made efforts to close the Greenlee County Jail and instead house them in another facility. What is your stance on this?
I am against this because ARS 11441 A5 says that the sheriff is supposed to keep the jail. It's in statute. The other thing is that now, if you close this jail, we can't cross county lines with an inmate. We have to wake up the judge in the middle of the night and get him initially appeared. So you're gonna pay for a judge, you're gonna pay for the transport, and you're gonna pay Graham County to house the inmate. So your tax dollars are going over there. And so they're benefiting from us. We're not. It's to me, it's not the right move. I am in favor of a new jail, and yeah, it's a price tag. But what people need to understand is there's a lot of money out there to help offset that cost, and that jail should be running on its own budget. It shouldn't be coming out of the general sheriff's budget. There is a lot of money out there to help offset that. And then when you house federal, state inmates, work with the Border Patrol on housing illegals for their processing, that is money that's coming back to the jail because they pay per head per day to the jail. And that is extremely important. That creates more jobs for this area, and the jail will be operating on its own budget. It wouldn't have to come out straight out of the general fund because it also help, it'd help be making its own revenue. Now, the sheriff's office itself can't make money, but the jail can and run on its own budget. And so it's very important. I think a new jail is great. The sheriff needs to get out there and hustle up the money to help offset these things. There's a lot of grants for that. Thank you.
And the budget does get save money. It's called jail enhancement. So it helps offset some of those budgetary costs. And I believe, based on our facility, it's not a safe facility. The reason why I say a direct supervision pod or direct supervision jail is the best, and the Clifton Sheriff's Office, one building would be awesome just for the people, is because this current facility gets so old, you have to go through 4 doors if you have a fight. I mean, ultimately, you need to be able to go through 1 door, stop that fight, and extinguish it, or whatever's happening, or whatever medical event, or if they're having drug-induced something going on. But ultimately, the safety of the people in there is what we need. And the doors that are there shouldn't be.
Okay, the next question, I'm going to combine 2 together because they're technically dealing with the same issue. Many people understand back when this ranch had their cattle confiscated by Forest Service. There was a big disagreement there. This constituent wants to know, where do you stand on the Martinez ruling and having to have all federal agencies go through the sheriff for confiscation of property / searches? But I'm going to add this second question to that because it's really dealing with the same thing. This question says, Title 16, United States Code, Section 480, Chapter 2, National Forest says that criminal and civil jurisdiction is the domain of the state of Arizona. Along with the statute, there is lawful court admissible evidence that the United States government lacks territorial jurisdiction in the county of Greenlee, state of Arizona. Do you agree or disagree with this, and why? And if elected, will you protect the property rights and the removal of any property without a warrant from the proper jurisdiction?
Yes, nobody's gonna, I do agree with nobody coming in, no agency coming in the county without talking to law enforcement or the sheriff first, because we're the chief law enforcement in the county, and so it would be, it's just disrespectful for law enforcement to do that to each other. We have a common ground where we tell each other what we're doing normally anyways. But no, I would never permit that to happen. And as far as the cattle rights, it's law. We're gonna hold up the law. If somebody breaks the law of overhanding government, if government breaks the law, we're gonna hold them responsible for that. If big business comes in and they break the law, we're gonna hold them responsible for that. So we're always gonna follow the law. We're officers of the court. We're gonna do what the court has already made the rule, the law, and we're gonna follow the law. And that's important that we show you that we will take care of your rights and your constitutional rights, and we're gonna follow along the law to the letter. So yes, I am going to protect your ranching rights and your water rights. We'll add water rights into that. It's kind of similar, So that's something that you won't have to worry about. We will uphold the law, and yes, that's what we're going to do.
So the Martinez situation was a very unfortunate situation. I've read the reports out of that. The Forest Service was denied court order to remove the cattle off the forest, and they were removed anyway. There were statutes that were violated. Governor Napolitano tried to issue an MOU to allow them to do that. Well, an MOU, one, is technically not legally binding. Two, it cannot circumvent state law, and that was violated. The Forest Service does not own this forest. They manage the land, the timber and the surface water. They don't own the land, and the stigma of the sheriff is just deputy dog. Those days are gone. Constitutional sheriffs need to stand up and stand for what is right. And so, as your sheriff, I stand in solidarity with the ranchers and the farmers. Mr. Ellison is correct. The water rights are incorporated in this because our way of life is being taken away. We are to uphold the law, and we are officers of the court. And so any order that comes has to be from the proper court, out of the proper jurisdiction, in order for that to be enforced. I will not allow any government overreach, whether it be at the state level or the federal level, to be imposed upon the people of Greenlee County. I stand firm on that. And it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's Second Amendment or anything else, your constitutional rights are your rights. And what happened to Mr. Martinez was wrong. It was dead wrong. And theft was taking place. Felonies were committed. And so therefore, I am in disagreement with what happened to Danny Martinez. I hope that someday he gets some reparations out of that. And I stand firm again against any government intrusion to take over that from us. Thank you.
Hello. As a young deputy, I was here during that whole thing, and I thought it was wrong. I thought we should have stood with the Martinezes. Because one, it did violate several state laws in theft. Two, it violated their constitutional law of illegal search and seizure. So the Fourth Amendment on the search and seizure of their property should have been protected. They are a federal agency. So their agency doesn't have laws in any way, shape, or form. It is all rules under the Forest Service. So currently, right now, I know there's a rancher that's in Greenlee County that is being protected by the sheriff and his proclamation. I mean, and we will need to keep that proclamation going, because to protect him from illegal search and seizure until the Forest Service does the proper paperwork with the courts and does the proper stuff, like, so if they did do all that and the sheriff's office had to stand by, we would make sure that that individual's rights are protected. I mean, ultimately, doing the right thing and following the law is our goal as a sheriff, and protecting your first, second, fourth, fifth, all those rights. I mean, and just like in the schools, we need to protect those rights too, because there's case laws on those, case laws on everything out there. I mean, ultimate case law is what we follow. The Constitution is what we follow, and Arizona state law is our binding law in Arizona. And those are the things we follow. So preventing theft, preventing Fourth Amendment violations. I mean, we need to look at the future and how the Forest Service is doing their business. And we need to protect all the ranchers, and we need to protect all the people in their water rights for the same thing. We need to keep people from trespassing without those court documents in the future of the water rights. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
To add on to what Medina said, you know, the Fourth Amendment was violated with the Martinez's. And people need to understand that cattle, livestock are private property, whether it's on public lands or not. It's private property. The Fifth and the 14th Amendment was also violated, which Mr. Martinez was denied his due process rights. And that's wrong. And we need to make sure we ensure those rights for everybody. Thank you.
Just a little shout out to Gary Griffith, our county attorney. I think he's probably, working hand in hand with the county attorney's office. That guy is probably the most brilliant man in constitutional law. He actually is a professor for teaching constitutional law. And relying on the county's attorney's advice and working well with the attorney's office is premier, is key to a lot of these questions that you're answering. So we have to work well with our legal as well.
Okay, you're gonna have to pardon me as I might trip over this one. This is a very long question, so pay attention. In studies and reports, it is important to know that the second highest source of economic impact in Greenlee County, second only to mining, is agriculture, which includes cattle ranching, followed by tourism, which includes hunting and other recreational activities that require access to our public roads. In the past 40 years or so, the travel management plan for the Forest Service has steadily closed roads and trails, depriving the public of their right to access to public land, which has also had an impact on the economies of our county. That being said, the designation of the rights-of-way, roads, and trails under the law ARS Title 37-931, Claims of Right-of-Way, under RS 2477, protects the public right to access to public lands. What is your understanding of this right, and how would you address any attempt to take this right of access to public land by anyone if you are elected chair?
I think it's Ellison. I think it is, yeah.
So this is a great question. I've actually experienced this myself. Somebody tried to block me on my own road. So it's kind of personal. It's an easy question to answer. If a road is established and it's been there for 10 years and is used by the public for 10 years, it's a road. That's it. You can't close it down. And we're not going to let anybody close it down. We're not going to let anybody close a road that's been established to be a road. And unfortunately, it's been happening. You see these boulders and trees and stuff laid over across the roads in the Forest Service, and that's my pet peeve. I hate that. I've been driving down this road since a little boy, and now I can't get to it. And I will not tolerate that. And as elected as sheriff, I will have them tear down those barricades if they violate that statute.
So, all RS 2477 was established in 1866 when there was a push for Western settlement. State of Arizona adopted all that stuff. So it is not legal to close any of these right of ways. The Forest Service and Federal Fish and Wildlife, when they started pushing the Wolf Project, started road closures and when they started shutting the timber down because they have to have 5,000 acre allotments in order to do wilderness studies. So they can't have any public access roads in there. They can't deny a person who's landlocked in the public or surrounded by public land, deny access or charge him fees to go to his own property. Those things are imperative. We have to maintain those public access. It doesn't matter if it's maintained or if it hasn't been bladed in 30 years. It's still a public access road and it cannot be barricaded and keep us from it. The other thing is private property that has a county road that runs right through the middle of it. That's public access. It cannot be shut off. It gets frustrating, gets a little complicated when it comes to private landowners, but it's what it is. It's a public thoroughfare. And you cannot close these public thoroughfares. And I will not allow any of it to be in the county. And I've worked diligently with the board of supervisors to help ensure that none of this stuff happens. Thank you.
So I've learned working in Greenlee County that the best option is the voice of the people. You guys stopped the Forest Service from shutting down Forest Road 515, shutting down Mud Springs Road. You guys have helped in fighting the Forest Service, and like we lost a couple, we gained a couple. I mean, but we need to continue to battle with the Forest Service and their rules. And yes, they don't need to block any roads until the government actually in the state of Arizona or Greenlee County says they can. I mean, we need to protect all access roads. I mean, because me and my family and other families here enjoy hunting on those private areas or those dark secluded areas where you have a road in. I mean, there used to be a road into Bear Wallow. 4 years ago, I had to hike in 2 miles to just make sure some kids were okay, and I could have just drove my side-by-side in there if they would have maintained that road. But helping the people of Greenlee County maintain those roads, keep them open, is our ultimate goal, my ultimate goal, because I enjoy the back roads also. And my kids enjoy them. Thank you.
To add to this RS 2477 situation is, as Medina said, search and rescue is imperative. I've worked all that northern country. I grew up in that northern country, and I've done a lot of searches with Greenlee County in that country. And when you're denying access to your emergency service to try to get to people when time is a matter, especially when there's kids involved, or we've had people that had heart attacks out in the woods and stuff, you're denying the search and rescue people the ability to get aid to those who are the injured party out there. And so it's imperative that we make sure we keep those open.
All right. If you guys are good for one more question. I think we're back to one. Okay. What is your plan to stay within your budget despite rising costs for employees and equipment?
So, as I stated earlier, I'm a business owner, and I understand the needs between wants and needs. So just solely relying on the tax dollars that comes out of your guys' pocket to fund our budget and other things, we have to research grants. Grants. You're gonna hear it till you're blue in the face from all of us up here because grants are imperative. And like Indian gaming casinos, they have to allot a certain amount of money annually to first responders. And that's a grant that we can write in for, help offset costs for equipment, things like that. IGAs with other agencies in order to obtain equipment that we could use. Those are very important. Those things will help offset the cost. And overtime grants and off-duty stuff will help offset the low wages that these guys make. Unfortunately, they'll never make Phoenix PD or Maricopa County Sheriff's Office wages, but we will work diligently to help offset some of that which eases the burden to you guys, because they can work all the overtime and off-duty stuff they want, and it doesn't come back, and it comes directly out of the sheriff's office general fund. So those things are important to get in there to help offset the cost. And again, wants versus needs. You gotta be able to shop it, you gotta be able to work, do our maintenance in-house, things like that will help offset costs, and equipment goes outsourced to other agencies or other facilities only when our fleet or whatever can't handle the process, or cheap backup, things like that. But the county needs to be also shopping for cheaper fuel and cheaper part, lower cost of parts. There are government issues with political contracts to help offset these things. So grants, overtime stuff, off-duty stuff, those things will help with wages and will maintain a comparable budget. I don't want it to go down by any means. I want it to stay there. If we can move forward, that'd be even better because of the cost of things, but I also don't want to impact the people that we're trying to serve either. And with that comes the accountability, making sure the sheriff's office is doing what it's supposed to do. Basically, you're getting your money's worth, is what I'm saying. Thank you.
Maintaining a budget is gonna be interesting for me, because I mean, I've never had to look at that or even consider that in my 20 years, so. Staying under that budget with my team in place, whoever they are, I know Austin Wilson's gonna possibly be my number 2 if we get elected. Looking at that budget and looking at how we can cut things, maintain things, and possibly bring things up. I mean, because like, I would like to add that extra SRO, but through a grant. So, I mean, we're gonna have to look at the EREs, we're gonna have to look at things, cost, fuel, like Mr. Sloan said. I mean, looking at all that stuff, I don't know if it's gonna be able to be maintained or hopefully be brought back up if we can bring in the manpower, because they're gonna be looking at insurance costs and all kinds of stuff. But ultimately, building that budget to a steady position for jail to be maintained, dispatch to be maintained, and patrol to be maintained is the best thing. I mean, right now, we're not gonna be looking at new rifles, new handguns, because we currently redid all those last year. So, and the cost of ammo is expensive, cost of maintaining a patrol car, we just had a patrol car wreck. So are we gonna have to go out to bid for another one? I mean, and I like that when we go out for bid, usually Kempton's is the only one that bids for it, those tax dollars stay in Greenlee County. I mean, I like the Tahoe, they are durable, they've held up. I mean, I had 2 hit by a deer, and I say they hit me, I mean they hit me, they ran on the road. But looking at those things is gonna be interesting events. I mean, because I'm gonna need help from the board's office and their management team, and I'm gonna need help from my management team. And working together is how we're gonna maintain a good and equitable budget. Thank you.
Now, Mr. Sloan's right when he talked about, you're gonna hear a lot about grants. Okay, so last year, about a year and a half ago, I wrote a grant for the Greenlee County Attorney's Office. It was $360,000. That grant pays for my salary. I don't get paid by the county, I'm getting paid by a grant. Also, the vehicle that I drive, that is a grant paid vehicle, so it's not costing the county or taxpayers any money. When I worked for the sheriff, we had an $8,000 Stone Guard grant, brought it to $182,000. It gave us 2 free vehicles, night vision goggles, FLIR, drug, things to help us apprehend drugs, equipment, multiple things that you can get out of grants. We also have the GOHS grant. We know we have a problem with speeders on 191 and US 70. We know we have that problem. We use the grants for extra money. That was a $32,000 grant that we could use that money to make our public safe and have these guys that are passing and no passing, DUI drivers, taking them off the road. And so we can use those grants to help us in our budget. Also, we had a $30,000 Burns grant, and that was for drug operations. So yes, grants are crucial. There's other things that we can do too. One thing is letting deputies live in Grand County and driving all the way from Fort Thomas to Greenlee County. That's ridiculous. We're wasting money with gas and paying them drive time to drive from one county to the other. I do not like that. I will not have that. County policy says you can live 25 miles outside the county line. You know, I do not believe in having county employees, especially deputies that need to have their heart and soul in our community, driving from another community. And so, yes, I do believe that we need to spend our money wisely. Another thing that I see deputies doing all the time, they'll go to court and they'll leave their car running for an hour while they're in court. We're just wasting resources. We need to, yes, it sounds little, but we're gonna have them turn off their car and save money. Thank you.
Do you have any more time on that one?
So this has to do with the cars running. Unfortunately, the cars do stay running, and in this heat, we have computers. The computers are sensitive. So we need to keep our computers cool. So while they're running, they are maintaining to make sure that our tracks is up to issue citations, to make sure that our computers is not taking another hour to reboot. Because I've shut down my computer during the summer and I've had to wait an hour for it to cool down, boot up when I've checked on. And yes, it is an inconvenience. Yes, I mean, doing the math on it, from what I understand, leaving them running as they are for an hour is a minimal amount of gas versus me running from Duncan to Morenci. I burn more gas doing that than I have left in my car running an hour at court. Thank you.
Now, I worked with the Arizona Highway Patrol. I'm the one that brought, when I came to work for Sheriff Summer in 2017, I'm the one that brought the computers into the cars. Guess what, guys? Those cars, those computers, they're mobile. You can pick them up, unplug them, and you can take them out of the car. So we can turn off the car and the computer will be safe.
All right, we're gonna do a 5-minute closing. Make sure if there's any questions that we didn't ask, that you wanna make sure the constituents know about you, that you bring that up in your closing remarks. I think, who are we on?
I think we're on Medina.
We'll start with Medina.
So I appreciate you guys coming out and listening to what we had to say. I mean, being born and raised in Greenlee County, I hope I'm elected sheriff. I mean, because I would love to continue to work for the people of Greenlee County. Well, I will still continue to work for the people of Greenlee County. I mean, because you guys are my ultimate goal and job, and the older people are the ones that need us. I've enjoyed working search and rescue. I've enjoyed doing many things for the sheriff's office. And I think search and rescue is a vital program that the sheriffs are going to need to be involved in the future. Mr. Allison was talking about those burglaries. Those burglaries were committed by one person. I mean, it wasn't a crime wave. It was one person doing all those burglaries. And yes, he was doing it for nefarious reasons, drugs, but it wasn't like a ultimate crime wave. And we need to continue to fight those smaller crimes to keep those people off the street. Because my sister was one of the victims from D&D storage. And I'm glad the county and the city worked together and got that crime solved. But working on the small crimes, patrolling the areas, knowing the people in the areas, getting these young deputies to talk to people in our community is going to be my ultimate goal. Providing a professional law enforcement in Greenlee County is going to be my paramount job because, like I said, professionalism, you have it up here, you're holding people to a standard, and they all want to work. If you're not holding anybody to a standard, nobody wants to work, stuff falls to the wayside, and crimes start not seeing that big. But we need to protect the people, and I've always loved Greenlee County, working from Duncan, working Morenci, working the Blue. I mean, it's the best thing, and I love it. I mean, law enforcement was never in my family. I'm first generation law enforcement, and looking at the world differently is hard for me because I've seen a lot of violent crime. I've given too many death notifications, but continually doing that job and dealing with that emotional, mental stress is what I want to protect our deputies from in the future and helping them with the Craig Tiger Act and doing stuff to protect them. And as an ASCOPS leader, as president, I have done that by helping them defend themselves, like when they're getting written up, or if they just need leadership and just helping them fight for what they want or what they need. And continuing doing that and protecting the community is the best thing. Thank you.
So what I bring to Greenlee County is we haven't talked about is an investigation division. Right now, I'm the only Greenlee County investigator in the county. We don't have any investigators. We have good deputies, I agree. But when you have somebody like a child molestation, just think if you had a child molestation happen at your home and you have a deputy show up, he's gone through basic academy, he doesn't have all that training and experience to get him through that crime. It's not fair to that deputy to take that case, and it's extremely not fair to the victim. You want the best. If you're a victim, you want the best. And we need investigations. And the only thing is intel. We work drug operations through investigators. And if we had investigations, you would know that it was multiple people that have been stealing all over the place. It's not just one person. One person was caught. That doesn't mean the theft has stopped. The theft has continued to go through. And we're continuing crime through our community. We're just not getting there. We don't have the opportunity or the mindset to stop that crime. Through an investigations program, we can do that. We also need a community police. Right now, most of the time that you see your deputies are sitting on the side of the road. And that's great on peak times and in line traffic. That's fine. Let's leave them out there on the side of the road and have them stop cars for reckless drivers. That's great. But when you're not doing anything, sitting on the side of the road for 4 or 5 hours isn't doing us any good. If you were to get in your car and you were to drive down to Walmart, you'd probably look up and see the 2 deputies sitting on a Forest Service mountain there. And then you do your shopping, you come back 5 hours later, you see them sitting in the same spots. That's not doing us any good. That's not using our resources properly. We need to break our neighborhoods up into sectors. We'll patrol the sectors. And then we'll have to be sure that you're being safe in your neighborhoods. And we'll start learning how to talk to our community. We have to earn your trust back. Once, again, like I told you before, once we start patrolling sectors, we're going to get out of our cars, we're going to walk up and down the streets, and we're going to introduce ourselves to you so we can start building a community bond. And that's one thing I think we are lacking in our community. Everybody should know who their deputies are. We should have a family-like orientation in our community. You need to know who your deputies are. You need to love them, and they need to love you. We need to trust each other so we can come to the common good. The other thing is, by electing me, we're going to get the school resource officers. And finally, drugs. We're going to apprehend drugs. We know that's a bad problem. It's the root of all evil, whether it's rape, murder, bank fraud, whatever. Drug is the root of all evil. Somewhere in there is going to be a drug, and we have to attack those drugs to make our communities better. And thank you. Vote for Eric Gilson for sheriff, and have a good day.
The definition of a sheriff is a protector of the county. Above and beyond all things, he is to protect your rights. He is to combat crime and be an officer of the court. He is your protector. He's the ultimate authority within that county. Your agency is only as good as its leadership. You have some good deputies here. They work hard and are hungry. While I'm not against having investigators, I don't want to take somebody off the road at this point in time. Where I come from, we worked all of our cases from the road. We worked complex cases. So while I was doing ICAC, which is Internet Crimes Against Children, while we worked homicides, while we worked general burglary calls, child abuse, molestations, things like that, we also still work the road. But it comes down to training. I love training. And the more training you'll give these people, the more tools they'll have in their belt to better serve you guys. That is the ultimate thing. All these deputies are criminal investigators. They may not hold the exact title, but they are criminal investigators. But if they're hamstrung, they can't do their job all the way. That's why you've got to give them the training they need. I agree with being in the communities. I disagree with sitting on the road for hours and hours on end. It has its place. But if you want a 45 someplace and meet and shoot the breeze, you know, it doesn't need to be out on the highway. You need to go in the neighborhoods and visit with folks. I agree with that. That transparency needs to come back. Transparency is everything. And when you have everything done in-house where it's quiet behind closed doors, you guys don't know what's going on. And you have a right to know what's going on. Again, it comes back to your leadership. I will open that line of communication. I will constantly be out communicating with the public. You will see it on the social medias. You'll see it in the newspapers. Not because a journalist showed up, it's because we contacted them. We will be posting things. I want, you know, as a citizen, I want to know what goes on in Duncan because I live down here in Duncan. And there's no reports like that. I believe in weekly recaps so that people know. You have a right to know. And being able to stand against the overreach of government is going to take a strong person. I've worked these cases against the Federal Fish and Wildlife when it comes to the wolf investigations and things like that. I've done those investigations. I have stood with ranchers when wild dogs were attacking their kids. That's the other thing. Animal control's lost its teeth for some reason. I plan on bringing that back because there's dog issues. I see it all the time on the community pages here in Duncan. Dogs need to be at home. And you cure those dog issues by issuing a citation to keep your animal at home. When you got kids being attacked like in Moranci, they need to be going there. When you have fatal car wrecks, supervisors should be going on those calls. We went on every single death call in the county, the supervisors did. As a sergeant, I was constantly called out to go deal with death, whether it was homicides, snappers, or whatever. A supervisor was always there. It's imperative that your supervisors are involved. And when these guys are working one-on-one by themselves, and you got calls coming out, and they're going to DVs, which I've done many times on my own, it's dangerous. It's one of the most dangerous calls we'll ever go on, is a domestic violence. You know, when these guys are working by themselves, administration needs to look at the CAD coming up and say, hey, we need to go out there and help this guy. He's running by himself. Get out from behind her desk, get in our patrol vehicle, and we'll take a call for service. It's important to have our guys' back. And again, you're gonna hear it till you're sick of it. Training, 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 proper leadership. I lead from the front, I don't boss from the rear. And there's not a deputy in this county who's gonna do something I haven't already done. Or we'll go with them and help them do it. I won't run their scenes, I won't micromanage them, but I'll be involved, be the help that they need. I will be an open door policy for the public to always come and talk to me. I will answer your emails. I will answer the phone calls. If you want to walk in the sheriff's office and talk to me, I'll be there. But I will always have the citizens of this county's best interest at heart. The ranchers, the farmers, the miners, everything is hinged on agriculture in this community. And everything that the federal government and other people want to do away with. And it's our way of life here. This has always been my home. Even though I was raised in Spring, this has always been my home. It's been my whole life in this county. Those mountains up there, it's my home. And I plan on being involved in this. 100%. I'll never take a break. So come election time, your early ballots, November 5th, I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
I want to thank all these candidates for braving the heat out here with us. They're willing to answer the hard questions for you all, so I encourage you, if this inspired additional questions, to meet with them, invite them into your homes. Make sure all your questions are answered before you mark that ballot. Thank you guys all for coming out today.
Hey, Marky, I want to thank you, Marky.
I know, I thought you had them there.